Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Ithaca Hawk, and welcome once again to the Anger Games Open Practices. And boy, do we have a whole bunch of exciting matches for you today. 12 exciting matches to be specific, which is 4 more than usual. So, by gosh, we are going to squeeze them in, and it is going to be exciting. Excitement is mandatory. I'm joined by a whole variable host of incredible people. I have on the desk next to me in space right now in front of this planet, Murray, Rothbardo, and Fear Vina. How are you guys? Murray, how are you?
Doing pretty good today, thank you.
And how about you, Fear?
I'm doing all right. Excited to commentate some AG.
Yeah, it should be fun. I heard you are in the Brave team. You couldn't come to the practices a couple of weeks ago because you guys were like practicing internally or something like elitist like that. But you're here today, and you're going to wow us with your words. Is that right?
As elite as Brave can be, yes, obviously.
Excellent, excellent. I'm just seeing ships warp in right now to the arena for our first match of the day, which we will go to imminently, but not quite yet, because I've been told that we're not allowed to go to matches too early this week. But it looks quite exciting. So the first match is going to be Rusty Hyenas versus TurboFeed or Glory. Murray, do you know anything about these teams?
We actually fought Turbo in the first round of the last AT. I was in Roquepel's team at the time. They were all right. They're willing to definitely take some aggressive strategies. They're a wormhole group, pretty friendly group of guys. X3 are part of PanFam. No value, if that is the actual correct ticker for them. And they, I haven't seen them in tournaments before, actually, if that is them. I think they're new to the scene.
Well,
Yeah,
go on.
I believe we did one scrim against Rusty Hyenas earlier on. I mean, they're pretty solid, I think.
Oh, that's Rusty Hyenas. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Sorry,
Rusty
I thought it
Hyenas.
was no value. Yeah,
No,
Rusty Hyenas are
it's Rusty
wormholes,
Hyenas.
right?
Yeah, and I was able to. I think we got a scrim against them earlier on. They've brought some interesting comps in our scrims. I see an interesting comp right now, so we'll see how it does against what I think is a little bit more traditional from Turbo.
Yeah, once we get the go ahead from the master of the buttons today, Dirk, who is pushing them and making all the pretty things happen on the screen, then we'll cut to the arena. The teams have landed. Some of them are just finishing their warps now. So I think we're a few moments away from the first match of the day. And yeah, I mean, without saying, Fear, what do you make of these two comps on screen? Like, what's your first thought just looking at it?
Well, so TurboFeeds, I think, is what the meta has kind of been evolving into, at least from what we've been seeing. One particular ship has shown to be very valuable in terms of its point value. Certain scrim partners of ours always ban it. So I see that. I'm seeing just a very high damage comp and one that's shown to be very good, at least in our scrims. Meanwhile, I see what maybe is a flagship comp, kinda, although there are no flagships in this tournament for Rusty Hyenas.
Awesome. Well, it's time to go to the arena and see who will win between Rusty Hyenas and Turbo Feeder Glory. And it's going to be me and Fear. We're going to do the casting now. So let's swap to the arena right now and have a look at this. So now, Fear, you can continue talking, but you don't have to be a secret. You can actually tell us what we're looking at now. So tell us,
yes.
What Turbo Feed brought?
So TurboFeed brought Triple Gila. This is something that I've seen quite a few times in scrims from quite a few different people. People have different variations of how they want to run Triple Gila. I think which command ship you're going to use. Are you going to be using heavy assault missiles? Are you going to be using HMRs? Are you going to be using rapid lights? Like, all of that plays into a factor of how the different comps work. I'm excited to see how Turbo executes this one, as we're actually counting down in system. Starting off.
Yeah, so Rusty Hyena and the
like
team, they're bringing Golem, Raven Navy, Orthrus, Kieran, Scalpel, Stork, Vigil, Theatre. So it should be interesting to find out Scimitar versus 2 logistic frigates. How's that going to hold up? There's a lot of damage in this comp, and you can see right now it looks like the TurboFeed guys brawling in as fast as they can, whereas the Rusty Hyena is starting to sort of spread away, but not too quickly.
Yeah, I see the Orthrus of Pavel actually trying to kite around the outside of this, but the dive from Koneko, I think that's going to be their first primary, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Koneko actually goes and grabs tackle there. And thus we have
we're seeing web drones out as well there from the Rusty Hyenas team. We don't see web drones very often. They did get a bit of a buff recently, which does make them a little bit more effective than they used to be. Damage being kind of spread right now. I'm not seeing huge amount of. Oh well, look at that scalpel. As I say, that scalpel right now is about to get absolutely yeeted into the dead space. He's just being held on a little bit by his buddy in that Kieran, but can he hold on? Probably not, because I mean scalpels aren't very tanky. If not, he's dead.
Yeah, and just going for the logistics trade off the bat, but it is logistics frigates up against Gilas, and those medium drones hurt a lot. Damage is on the Sleipnir from the Rusty Hyenas side. They're getting him in about half shield, but he's got Ansel charges fine. He's also under semi-rep, so this is going to be a little bit tough for them to go as they've lost their Kieran, so now they've only got the active rep on the Golem and potentially an Ansel on the Raven Navy to keep them alive for the time being, but their DPS still on the field, still working away at this Sleipnir.
Yeah, those Gilas really just warped in, saw those two logistics frigates, laughed and pressed F. At that point, it was kind of game over for the two of them. The Scimitar is just completely fine right now. Looks like they're trying to kill Jessamine Waffle in the Mollis to remove some of that control from the field. But are they going to be able to break through a Scimitar? They're still shooting the Sleipnir, and he's repping up to full between charges. It feels like this is kind of game over at this point. We might see a clean sweep. Maybe they catch this Mollis, but it looks like Tiro in that Scimitar is doing a good job keeping everyone alive.
Yeah, damage now on Erlin in the Golem. I actually have not seen him rep once. He's starting to bait tank now, but I mean, without a Bastion module, Golems just aren't super tanky. And he's bleeding armor, starting to get a little bit of that shield gone, but there's just so much damage on the field with the Sleipnir, which I assume is AC. I actually haven't checked the model, and these Gilas, and he's in half armor. He's very not long for the world as the carries is about to go down to drones.
Yeah, we saw Tiro in the Scimitar come in quite close to the Golems there, basically, probably to try and get maximum reps in. And then a whole flight of webbing drones landed on him, a bunch of damage landed on him, target painters landed on him. And he took a chunk of damage, but he very quickly moved himself out of that dangerous position. There was no tackle left, really, other than that Stork to lock down that Scimitar, and the damage just couldn't apply properly. The Golem is about to, yep, there he goes, he's dead as well. So at this point, it's not a clean sweep. They did manage to kill one of those molluses, so it's not too bad. They can at least go home and be like, "Hey, we got something." It's not clean sweep, but it is basically a clean sweep.
Yeah, and it's just I think a better comp. I would be surprised if this were cruises from the side of Rusty Hyenas, because I don't think cruises are incredibly good in this format. But if it is something like a rapid heavy comp, like you just weren't able to break a Sleipnir through its Ansel charges and the semi, and as you see the Orthrus going down, throw onto the Raven Navy issue next, and then finally they'll get the Lynx boat, and all will be over. GS called, and so Turbo, take the
Rusty,
win.
what could they have done different there? It seemed like they worked in about 30 and kind of hoped for the best, but it felt like against three Gilas, those two logistics frigates were just never going to be too successful. Could they have maybe done a different strategy after they warped in, saw what they were facing?
I just don't think logistics frigates are good in this format. They're decent in the AT because you have such high numbers where you're going to break Logi anyway, so you might as well be more economical with it. T2 logistics cruisers and some T1 logistics cruisers, such as the Rodiva, we've been seeing a lot of, and I think those actually keep ships alive a whole lot better than the two logistics frigates, and why we've seen a lot of teams pivot towards single logistics cruiser in the 7-man format. I think back to the drawing board and that thing, I think they have decent amounts of damage, but you're not breaking a Sleipnir through Ansel, so maybe better target calling, going for some of these Gilas first instead of that Sleipnir could have netted them better results.
Yeah, absolutely. It is just Carl right now, hanging on as long as he can. Really wants to draw this out and make us talk about nonsense as long as he possibly can. He's going into Hull almost now. The Stork is still alive. If he doesn't immediately fly out the boundary, I'll be very annoyed with him. But yeah, great match there by TurboFeed or Glory. It really just controlled that from the start. Those Gilas doing work, the control with the carries and the Mollis. And then, that Scimitar pilot, I think he did really well, just positioning, moving around, and keeping everyone alive. One carries died, but at that point, it didn't really matter. It was just about keeping that Sleipnir up, and he did.
Yeah, I mean, it also is, I think, Rustic is trying out something a little bit different, a little bit more niche, trying to see, okay, do we actually do something against Gilas? Because Gilas weren't banned this time around, so you're going to see Gilas or you're going to see counters to Gilas most often, or what people think are counters to Gilas. I'm interested to see what that Golem fit was. Obviously, if you have a Bastion module, Rapid Heavies don't really work on a Golem, but in this format, you might have had that option potentially, and maybe that's why they opted for the Sleipnir, but this Stork's finally going down, and that is the match.
Yeah, that will be the match as soon as he goes down, and then we will cut back to the desk, talk about this for a little bit. You mentioned Gila. It's banned very often in these matches today. Most teams choosing to ban it. Imagine it's so powerful that it could almost be ban or bring, depending on how confident you are with that ship. But it does seem... I mean, we see Soth already. The match isn't even over, and Mr. Soth, the man behind the curtain, is already warped in with his cleanup ship to start cleaning the arena, while Nisat burns towards the edge of glory. Unfortunately, he's turning around, trying to make this match last as long as possible. That's negative 5 points to Gryffindor.
Soth given the die faster and local. I think he was able to boost to the other edge of the arena, nearly boundaried off of it, but he's parting back in. I mean, these Gila drones eventually are going to catch up to him.
There he goes. Awesome. Fantastic. So great match there. Yeah, let's hand it back to the desk. Welcome back to the desk.
How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad. That was a good first match, I thought. Very dominant performance by those 3 Gilas, just removing those logistics frigates. In this format, 7-on-7, 3 Gilas. That seems like a lot.
It is so strong with just how much DPS they bring to the table and how easy it is for them to apply, especially with it being faction drones. Like, they just apply so easily to almost everything, even Logifrigs.
Yeah, and of course they're HP bonus drones as well, so they're really hard to clear.
Yeah, you can't defang a Gila. It's just impossible no matter what ship you're in. Like, even if you're taking like a Skybreaker or something like that, it's basically impossible. It's one of those cases where I just think Gila is probably the strongest ship in the tournament right now, and it is pick or ban. Certainly in scrims, we've seen a lot of Gila bans and Gila picks.
So in that last match, we saw the bans from Rusty Hyenas were Blackbird, Balgorn, Zarmzad, and TurboFeed banning Abaddon, Barghest, Hyena. So, what do you make of these bans? Why didn't one of them ban the Gila?
Certainly because, like, either they haven't experienced what we've been experiencing, or they thought they could beat it with how tanky the Golem and the Raven were going to be. They thought they could be able to tank through it with them and trade out their DPS. Though they tried to go on the Sleipnir first, if I was paying attention correctly, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. The other thing was, I'm actually surprised I picked a Raven Navy instead of a Scorpion Navy. They're same points, but a Scorpion Navy is far tankier, and you don't get the range advantage, but like you apply to more things better. Like it's, I don't know. I would have preferred a Scorpion Navy there over the Raven Navy. Maybe you actually kill that Sleipnir, maybe not. Didn't see the missile systems. I assume they were Rapid Heavies, because otherwise that would not have been a good time.
I see the first team of the next match has just warped in, so we're only a few minutes away from that, which will be Shadow Cartel versus RamRod Relulded, captained by Radikos. The bans for this match, Shadow Cartel choosing independently by themselves, completely level-headedly, to ban the Golem, the Barghest, and the Ishtar. Radikos, the captain of RamRod, looked at those bans and thought, you know what, I'm banning the Ishkar, Zarmzad, and Broadsword. He did this of his own volition, as far as we're aware. Ishkar, of course, key lynch. It's almost like a baby Gila, some people would say. That's what I hear people saying. Is that what you hear as well?
Yeah, certainly. Quite high DPS, very fast, uncatchable almost.
Yeah, really just one of the most popular ships in any tournament format, and also on Tranquility, PvP. I mean, everyone knows you see an Ishkar, you just run away. It's probably going to kill you. Radicals didn't want to see that. Didn't want to face it. Didn't really want to do like spool up Reppy boys either, so banned the Zarmzad and thought, hey, no supers for me, so I'm not bringing a broadsword either. So solid sets of bans there from RamRod Relulded. Shadow Cartel, very experienced tournament team. I'm not sure about their rosters like this year for this, but they've been in tournaments for like well over a decade, doing well, doing not so well. I think they had a mediocre run in AT17, if I remember correctly, and I don't know how this roster is translating. But
I know-
RamRod, go on.
I know the captain Iter. I've flown on a team with him before, and he's quite knowledgeable. So I have high hopes for him.
Perfect. And
Well,
that's-
currently he's trying to get his team into system because apparently didn't get here on time.
Womp womp.
Classic. That's the one thing about doing this on Singularity rather than Thunderdome or on TQ for the actual AT is people have to actually fly their ships to the system that the fighting is taking place in. There's no like magic teleport button, so you can't just sit in your own little station somewhere else and wait to be moved by CCP Zealous and his team of minions. You have to actually undock and fly places.
Yeah, and as the teams are getting onto the arena, I see one of these comps, and I don't like it, but we'll see how.
I mean,
well
it kind of
does.
matches the bands in that it's kind of dog shit, but we'll find out. It could be all right.
Oh, I guess the correct word to use is it's a little bit interesting. It has what I think is probably the most busted Desi in the tournament.
Agreed.
And we shall see what that is once we get on grid.
RamRod was really quite smart by banning Zarmazad, totally of his own volition. I know that he banned it because it's a very strong Logi Vexel right now, especially with how low DPS everything is. It's just almost impossible to break through Zarmazad reps.
Yeah, once it starts like spooling, it's quite strong, but like on 7-on-7, like I don't know.
It's weak to cap is what we've noticed in our testing, is that like cap wise, I know a lot of people like the Guardian, even though that has cap issues as well. So but it like cap wise, it's like the Inuris is the most stable. Like it doesn't really run into the same cash issues and doesn't really die to cap pressure nearly as bad. But at the same time, as you mentioned, the Zarm, very good. I think it's also very good specifically when you know that someone's going to be shooting a single target on your fleet. But splitting damage, I think, tends to be the strategy of choice against that ship.
Shadow Cartel ships now landing in the arena. Both teams at the perches at 500, looking at each other, staring across space at each other, daring each other to flinch first. Shadow Cartel warping in first. RamRod, despite landing first, playing it cool, standing right at the back, waiting to come in. The Shadow Cartel comp, when we switch to the arena, you'll see, not entirely unexpected based on some previous matches. This certainly should be interesting, to be honest. There's a lot of damage in this RamRod comp. Dog shit as it may be, it can actually do a lot of damage.
I think you're underestimating it.
I think I am underestimating it as well, but that's called comedy, my friend.
It's very tanky. I'll give it that.
It's very tanky and it applies super well.
Yeah. Especially
That
against
is
the
true.
logistics on the other side.
That is true.
So it could be a lot harder for the Shadow Cartel logistics in this match. I think that both teams are calling that they're ready. So I'm going to just throw Dirk in the deep end and say, hey, Dirk, get ready to switch to the arena for Shadow Cartel versus RamRod Relulded, casted by Fear and Chair.
All right. We are on to the arena. I see Triple Gila once again. Very strong comp. This time they opted for the Drake Navy so they can have 2 electronic attack frigates and those Hyenas. Meanwhile, Shadow Cartel, AAA and I, what do you make of this?
So it's going to be very tanky, and also its damage is going to be able to apply super well and at good ranges. So I think that they're going to be able to snipe the Scimitar super fast, and they're going to have to DPS race their way through the Gilas.
It's going to be a tough order, though, just considering how good the Gila is. They also have a Draugr, which I think is a particularly good ship at catching out these frigates. Does a boatload of DPS, has very decent tanks, and obviously that links as well. We started off the match, and it looks like the burn in from the RamRod Reloaded onto Shadow Cartel. As Shadow Cartel continue to move around the arena. I think the first primary might actually be this Gila of John here. Actually, they're going for the Logi trade immediately. A Neros going down into armor for the side of Shadow Cartel.
RamRod was slow
As the
on
semi
getting out there.
starts going through his Anthils.
Yep. RamRod was slow on getting out their heal bots. So now Neros is going to take even less. It's very interesting that I went for 2 Hyenas in this comp. I don't really feel like it's needed, but...
Yeah, Nano Neros is just melting. Gila drones, Gila damage. I mean, it doesn't even matter what missile system you have, you're going to apply to an Oneirus just fine. And
Simi is tackled, though. They are on top of the Simi.
yeah, but he was bait tanking a little bit, just used a couple of Ansel charges. They're going to get this Oneirus and then immediately, I think, move on to an ANI, even if that is the tankiest thing on the field right now. Not tankiest thing, even if they are super tanky. You put the drones on the Draugr and the missiles on an ANI, and then you'll eventually kill both.
I don't know if my dudes can get out of this. They're trading through the Simi right now, though. They are also medium rep botting it. That's very good.
That's
And
up there.
I
Now
don't-
trading through Radkos and the ANI. The Ponty is also being taken out by the drones as the Semi finally falls. He ran out of Ansel charges. So now we're in a straight DPS race, but the DPS does favor the side of RamRod Reloaded. Sorry, not RamRod Reloaded. Of Rusty Hyenas. Shadow Cartel. Wow, I'm
got
all
there.
over the place right now. Because they've got more damage. It's triple Gila plus a Drake Navy issue. And so they're already through Radkos right now. Have the drones on the Ponty, taking that one down. See a little bit of damage on the Draugr as well. Meanwhile, this Tempest fleet, I don't think it's going to apply that well. And in fact, they haven't been able to kill anything from Shadow Cartel since that Semi.
Nope.
So they're about to lose their Draugr.
Are these... Hold on, I'm looking at the guns real quick. I think these might be Pulse. They are indeed Pulse Augur Navy issues. So that is why they are having an issue killing anything, because they have to be right on top of them to actually apply their damage. So take everything I said earlier and throw it in the fucking garbage.
I mean, they are killing a Hyena right now.
Yeah.
Liam about to go down as looks like both the Draugr and the Pawnee are taking damage, as well as Chris and the ANI. A little bit of split DPS from Shadow Cartel, but we'll let them do that just fine. Popping through Chris, and then they should be able to win the rest of the DPS race as well. I mean, Gilas do a crap ton of damage, although Mindkiller is in about half shield right now. I think they got to take this Draugr off the field. He does about, I'd like to say 800, 900 DPS at least once he's spooled up. Certainly more than an ANI does.
Yeah. And the links as well, so they're just overall making the team weaker once you take them out of the game. They are slowly getting mined down. Mindkiller is going down.
I'll trot through the first Gila, but the Draugr's about to fall, and that is, I think, the majority of their damage off the grid.
Yeah.
Outside of the Tempest Fleet issue. Plus, he has to start spooling up. December's going down very low as well. I think the drones are about to chew through the Draugr. There he is. And it's just December and Syndrican up against 3, and they just won't win this DPS race.
It's a Tempest Fleet issue versus the world.
How's this Tempest Fleet issue fit? Let me take a look at it. I think those are autocannons, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they are. They're indeed.
Yeah, but as you can see, the Tempest Fleet's just not tracking anything.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice also for like what's in that category. I wonder if the because Shadow Cartel did not ban Batten. Huh. I feel like there's so many better ships than a Tempest that they could have chose. It is quite tanky though.
The Batten, as you mentioned, and plus it costs less points.
Armageddon would be strong. Like,
I mean, Geddon for the cap warfare plus the drone damage. I mean, you could, in that same vein, you could go something like Adami. But nope, went for the Tempest Fleet issue, and this match is as good as over. Shadow Cartel coming out the victor with DNI, 2 Gilos, and a Hyena remaining.
I don't know if there's much else to like. We're once again seeing the power of triple Gila.
Well-
It's
Well, I mean, let's dissect this a little bit because, you know, triple ANI, they're trying something else. I mean, ANIs are super tanky, right? But you can't do something like a polarized ANI and well, not polarized ANI. Which one's the polarized meme that people do whole tank polarized?
I think
Can't-
that's
It's the Og Navy.
Og Navy. Yeah,
that
the
is
Og
the
Navy.
ANI. Yeah, okay, that was right. I was right about the ANI. You can't do that in this format because polarized guns are banned. So you're just doing less damage than a Gila, and you're taking a Tempest fleet instead of some other. I don't like the triple
polarized?
ANI setup.
Can we get a rule check on that? Are polarized banned?
I thought
Yeah.
they're banned.
Polarized are
They're
not
free.
banned.
They're not banned. They're just not good.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
As the desk has told me, I'm an idiot, and I need to read the rules more.
Hey man, there's a million rules I always have to ask questions about.
I mean,
That's why you got people smarter than us.
while we watched this TFI die, we had a team captain try to ban 3 Logi today.
That doesn't work.
As the beam is Logi.
That is true.
I will say one thing. So, on the topic of Og Navy issues, they tend to be very much kind of a bait ship, and they get me every time when I'm putting together comps because their on-paper stats in a lot of categories are very good. Their EHP is massive, their speed is acceptable, their damage is solid, but underneath all of that, you have a lot of issues that end up pulling themselves up or being these like smaller things that you end up not realizing until you try them and you're like, huh, this didn't work. They have very limited range, they have very poor tracking, and they have a very small drone bay. So you end up with a lot of these smaller things that take away from the value of the ship, and oftentimes you'll run into a situation like you saw in that match where the ANIs aren't fast enough to catch a Gila, they don't project far enough to hit a Gila, and against something like Logi frigates, even if they get on top of the Logi frigates, oftentimes they struggle to track them. And so you look at it, your paper stats are great, and then you actually go to try and run it, and you're like, huh, that didn't work.
There you go. So Shadow Cartel bringing Gilas and beating RamRod Relulded there with the Og Navy comp. 2 things to mention. Og Navy, personal AT highlight of mine, AT16, when Goonswarm Federation fielded the Mitannian Inaugural Navy, and everyone sat back and did the point, hey, that's definitely bait. And they just ignored him the whole match. And then when eventually he did die, he was fitted with polarized pulses, I think, which was just fantastic. And then second, going on to like the good stats on paper, the ship that you see like rookie teams sometimes bring on that is the Maelstrom, because they look at the alpha strike of a Maelstrom and they're like, oh my god, look at this, we could just like alpha other ships off the field. Like, why we don't have to play, we just hit F1 and then the other ships die, like GG. And then they do it, and then it turns out most of that big number doesn't actually apply, because you can kite a Maelstrom with arties in like a Poco, like that can kite it. They're absolutely terrible. But
Well, you say that, but Brave lost to a Tusker's Artie Maelstrom comp.
yeah, I was gonna say, but with good piloting, you can start to eke some big numbers out of it, because it's like a 20-second cycle time or something on arties on a Maelstrom. It's just absurd. So you literally have to like line it up, and visions of crews on a battleship all running around getting it ready, and the commander being like, fire, and then just one volley goes off, and if you missed it, you're like, fuck, that's it, we're done for, boys. But Tusker is very good transversal matching. That's a really important part of it. If you can transversal match, if you can make your little line on the screen look like the other person's line before you fire, then you're going to have a much better day.
I think the comp we brought against them was absolute garbage, and if we just brought Shield Rush, we would have been fine. But you live, you learn. Fun times. If you ever feel useless, remember the Maelstrom has a active rep bonus on a ship with 4 mid slots.
It has quite a bit of mid slots, I believe.
The Maelstrom?
Yeah, you can
It's
duel
got 7 or 6. One of the two.
Yeah,
I thought I had like 5 mid slots for some reason.
No, the
No,
Maelstrom
it's-
has a lot of other issues. Also,
6 mid slots.
Yeah.
Somewhere between 4 and 8 mid slots.
Lovely.
There we go.
All right. Well, anyway, looking forward to the next match. I want to talk about the bans a little bit before we get in, because both teams said no more Gilas. Tired of that. Banned it clean out. And outside of that, their bans are actually mostly focused on some wider range of things. You've got some battleship bans to take a look at armor control. You've got some other bans to try and make sure that Missile Kite doesn't sneak its way in spite of the Gila ban. But other than that, you've still got a fair number of options available in armor and a fair number of options available in heavy shield should they choose to go in either direction.
Yeah, I think banning the Gila, I think almost every match for the rest of the day, let me just keep looking down, has the Gila banned. Other than one match for the rest of the day, everyone else has banned the Gila. It's just these first two teams been like, yeah, the Gila's fine, it's no problem, we don't have to worry about the Gila, and then getting Gila stomped immediately. So I agree with banning the Gilas. Both teams, of course, banning the Gilas and getting that fourth ban. 3 blind bans, any duplicates, the teams get another additional ban to compensate. So Spectre Fleet banning Orthros Gila Balgorn, Wolves Among Strangers banning Blackbird Gila Vindicator. Both teams got an extra ban for the twin Gilas. Spectre Fleet banned the Sleipnir, and Wolves Among Strangers banned the Scorpion. Teams have landed on grid. We will be able to get to it fairly soon. I'm just going to say Spectre Fleet bringing 2 of my favorite ships. And I don't mean 2 individual ships. I mean 2 of the one ship. And it happens to be one of my favorite ships. I'm a big fan of this ship, especially in small number tournaments like 7-on-7, 5-on-5 tournaments as well. I think this ship is just fantastic, and it can do a lot. It's very mobile. It's actually suspiciously fast. It has a lot of control, and it just does a lot of damage, and it's very hard to kill. And Spectre Fleet bringing 2 of them. Murray, without giving too much away, I mean, am I over-egging this ship here? What do you think?
It's going to be interesting because it's going to be a battle of one team running at the other team while that team runs away. And the question of whether or not they're able to pin them down is going to be the main question of the match for sure.
I mean, that sounds like almost every Alliance tournament match of all time. One team running after the other team, while the other team trying not to be caught. Occasionally we get very lucky.
That's only if it's Kite versus Rush.
Yeah, sometimes you get very lucky and you get Rush versus Rush and everyone warps in at 0. Oh, arena's ready. Let's switch to the arena. So this one is going to be Murray and Chair for this one. Murray and Chair. So take it away, boys.
So before you start, we are actually still missing one pilot because the comp of the blue team was 1 point over, so they have to switch out a ship.
All right. Well, while we are waiting for that person to find a better or worse ship, probably worse, you've got 2 comps on the grid. One is anchored by 2 Hyperions. They've got a Cursed Draugr to back it up with some Frigate Logi. So they're looking to rush in, make use of those Hyperions with their heavy active tank and those fat damage numbers coming from the blasters attached to them. On the other side, you've got a comp that's much more focused on kiting away. You've got the classic armored drone Eos Ishtar with a Hugin, where that Hugin, a lot of spare mid slots because it's armor. That's going to be a lot of webs to hold down the enemy team and either help those drones apply or just keep those heavy blaster Hyperions from getting on top of their ships.
It almost feels like Wolves were like, you can bang Gila, we'll bang Gila too. But we're still going to bring drones and come with these Ishtars and hope that it still has the same effect. But I'm skeptical, man. Every time I test Ishtars, they don't do very well. The drones are slow. It's hard to get them to apply. But the Hugin might be able to hold. But the Hugin's going to be not really going to be able to help with the application because it's going to have to keep the 2 Hyperions off everything. It's either that or it dies. Basically.
I think the biggest question with drones, especially in a 7-ship instead of a 10-ship format, is even with 10 ships, drones tend to struggle on DPS. They're very, very reliant on killing the logistics first because they're usually good at it and then working through everything else. So with that reduced DPS, it'll take them even longer to start off with killing that logistics. And if the other team has enough rep bots or they have a decent plan in place to try and manage drones, then it can become very, very difficult for them to get to the point where they're winning the match.
Agreed. We're also seeing a Vigil fleet issue, which you don't see very often used on Tranquility, and much less in tournament scene. Like, do you think it's worth even bringing with the bonus on it? Like, it has a really good web, but it doesn't really do much else.
He switched that
It
out
depends
for
a
the
lot on
heretic
what
that
you
was
do with those points. But irrespective of that, the match has just started.
We should see those
Hyperions
Hyperions.
are not moving much of anywhere.
One's going directly in. One looks like it's going back towards a. Oh no, he's changed his mind.
All right, they're
Oh, we're
slowly
seeing
starting to make
sentries
their
out.
moves.
Sentry's
Meanwhile,
out, and the Vengeance of Striz is going down. Pretty low in armor, but it looks like he's getting caught.
sentries are an interesting choice here, particularly because the team that's chasing them down has Logifrigs, and sentries are not going to kill those in the history of ever unless those Logi pilots make a terrible mistake.
I think they need to abandon them and start going to either mediums or heavies at this point.
Unless
I
they
don't
plan to target down something that has a much higher sig radius, I'm inclined to agree. So
I don't-
far, though, the Hyperions haven't made too much progress in approaching the enemy team.
Yep.
They're moving in a little bit, but the Hugin seems to be doing at least a little bit of work in keeping people away from them.
Wolves also needs to get moving, or they're about to have a Hyperion sitting on their Hugin. It seems.
Damage has swapped over to the Draugr. They managed to poke his shields a bit, but otherwise not too much damage. There's a couple of hammerheads and smaller drones out, but the main drone swap has only just occurred. You've got a couple of heavy ogres and other things slowly mooking their way over towards targets.
And they're going back on the Vengeance. I don't think they break anything.
I'd have to take a closer look. The Vengeance does have a paint from the Hugin on it, so it's going to have that sig bloomed at least a decent amount, but even still, the Vengeance is always going to be one of the tankiest frigates in the game. It's extremely difficult to kill, and that's why so many people tend to choose it when they're looking for a durable tackle frigate.
Yeah. The Hyperions are also shooting drones as they try and get onto a target. So eventually we're going to see these guys run out of drones if the game goes on for long enough. Which I don't know how possible that is with Ishtars and Eos.
The drone bay is pretty solid, particularly on the Ishtar. You have a lot of flights of drones, although they did waste a full set of them on sentries, so it might not be quite as rosy a situation as you might want it to be. They seem to have decided that shooting small things did in fact not work, and some of the damage has now swapped over to one of the Hyperions, that one of Virion.
And this is going to be the real test to see if they can actually break through it. Maybe it's a polarized Hyperion and doesn't have any resist. That'd be the only hope I see.
Yeah, otherwise, they might be in trouble. Like I said, drone comps tend to be pretty low DPS in general, and so that's why they often choose to go for the logistics first. Interestingly, they haven't tried that yet. The Thalia and Deacon are both untouched.
Mm-hmm.
That might be just because they haven't managed to land a decent bit of tackle on those frigates yet, because they know that their drones aren't going to apply unless they can get some solid tackle on the Deacon or Thalia.
Agreed. And I think that's also Wolves is probably worried about the Vengeance, and I understand why they're going on it so much. Oh, someone just boundaried. And that would be one of the Thalias. That is
Thalia. Okay, so that's of the drone kiting comp. To be quite honest, that probably doesn't matter too much right now, because they, for the most part, haven't been caught except... Yeah, no, I don't think they're really caught at all right now, so with no damage applied, that doesn't do a whole lot.
what has the curse been focusing on mostly? We've totally glossed over it, like we were so focused on the Hyperion and everything. There's been a curse in the mix the whole time.
The Deacon that did not boundary has dropped, so now our drone comp is without logistics.
Yep, and we figured out what the curse was doing.
I absolutely agree with you, right? The curse is huge in terms of its ability to actually help them run down targets. However, they hadn't seemed to have much success, although they did manage to catch the Deacon, so perhaps I just missed that small piece.
Yeah, I think he was just keeping the Deacon dry, and that was about it. And now the curse is taking damage from some of the curators. I don't think there's much. I think this is game set match.
Yeah, that the drone comp, unfortunately, I mean, they only have those, 2 Ishtars and a single EOS?
Yep, and the EOS
That
just
is
got caught by the
half the
minions.
number of drone ships that you typically see in like a 10 ship comp. And so with such low DPS, it's just incredibly difficult to break through anything.
And the EOS is about to take 2 full Hyperions to the face. No, so like with them having sentries, do you think they right off the start are trying to snipe something and hope that they can like almost like a fly killer almost, but with drones?
Possibly? I mean, maybe that was just their only hope with the amount of DPS that they had, but
They are
even
taking
if you're
down the they're taking down the Logifrix now of
Oh wow, yeah, no, they suddenly dropped. Turns out they should have shot them the whole time. Who knew? Couldn't have possibly known that you needed to kill Logi first in a drone comp, but at least hopefully they've learned that now. Unfortunately, at this point, they've lost enough that they can slowly get chipped away, and in the long term, there's potential issues because even with 3 drone DPS ships, can you kill a Hyperion? I don't think
2.
so.
They're down to 2 now.
The Talia didn't notice that he went out of boundary and that we told him, so he was still wrapping the EOS. That's why it dropped so quickly.
Makes sense. The Lone Ishtar and the Hugin are trying to take out the Vengeance now.
In theory, they might be able to kill him eventually, but it looks like he still does have a couple rep bots on him, so it's going to take a while. Meanwhile, the Hugin is well and tackled down and is not long for this world.
With 2 minutes left on the field, I don't see a way for Wolves to really scrape their way out of this. They're down on points by quite a bit. They'd have to chunk through both the Hyperions to be able to get through anything. They're trying on the Jogger right now, though.
Yeah, given an infinite amount of time, right? They're able to take out that Jogger. They're possibly able to take out the Curse, but they're never going to break either Hyperion. And on a raw points scale, those 2 Hyperions are going to be more than enough to make sure that the match is won. Of course, there's only 2 minutes left. The potential for them to even do that is pretty low. The Draugr is nearing death, about a quarter armor left on him, as he tries to kite out the heavy drones. The Berserkers are still managing to get in a hit every now and again, though, so he will eventually drop, although they only have a minute to make sure that he dies.
They're surprisingly fast, too. They must have double drone navs on those Ishtars, if I had to guess.
Yeah, that is one of the advantages of running armor, is you get a bunch of flexible mid slots that you can either slide E-Ward into or get some additional drone tracking or navigation slotted in. which can definitely help out those Ishtars and Eoses. The damage is switching onto the curse, but with only 30 seconds left, the odds that he dies are pretty low. And I have to say, that curse was probably the saving grace for this match, as it was that neuting power is probably what enabled them to start slowly picking apart the kiting comp without any other tools that could really get in.
Yeah, it surely helps the Hyperions in the areas they're lacking. Even though they have the utility highs, they still lack a little bit when it comes to that. And that's game. Spectre Fleet takes that pretty handily, I would say. It was a little bit iffy towards the end. We had a boundary, which is always nice. Love to see those.
Definitely a pretty comfortable match for them. They did manage to lose their Logi, but it took a long time for it to happen, and otherwise they were pretty smooth sailing through the course of the match.
Makes you wonder what they could have done if they hadn't had to switch out one ship, right?
What was their last? It was a Heretic?
They switched out a Heretic for a Vigil Fleet issue, I believe.
I don't think that changed the equation that much. You get a wobble and a scram. That's about it.
It would have been an additional durable tackle ship, I suppose, but I don't think it would have made much of a difference. That's not what they were lacking.
I think the most important takeaway is that the Hyperion 100% win rate, 0 deaths, best ship thus far, other than the Gila, of course. Yeah, so a solid win there by Spectre Fleet over Wolves Among Strangers. Bit of a messy match, I think, really, from Wolves Among Strangers. Like bringing the wrong ships because the points were wrong, like not a full understanding of the rules there. One of their pilots boundering quite significantly, and then not noticing that he was being told to warp off, and then warping off later. It's just a bit of a messy match, but this is why we do open practices. I mean, this is practice, right? This is when you want to make these mistakes. You don't want to do this in an actual tournament with the tournament tool, because if you get 1 meter over the boundary, son, you're dead. You get boomed by the system, so you are done for. But yeah, I mean, Wolves Among Strangers, decent effort. It's a bit more practice, to be honest. And Spectre Fleet, I think that was a respectable performance. It's quite hard in a brawling team to go up against a kiting team, especially a drone kite comp, which they can just drop drones and then burn off in different directions, sit in micro jump units, and you can end up spending your time chasing people around the arena. And although the Hyperion is quick for a battleship, and sometimes you can fit it with a micro jump unit and try and 360 no scope onto someone, that's difficult. That requires a bit of skill. We've seen it done. And it can be good to just jump into the back line. A ship like the Hyperion, if it gets in the back line, can just cause absolute havoc. But there you go. That's that match over and done with. The next match will be Fancypants versus Jovco Mining Division. Already Jovco are here, ready to rock and roll. So we're just waiting for Fancypants. Let's have a look at the bans here. So Fancypants banning Bargath Gila Scimitar, and Jovco banning Gila Vindicator Balgon. So quite different ban sets there. Both teams banning the Gila, and then getting additional bans. Both teams choosing to ban the Blackbird. So, Murray, what do you make of this? Gila is obviously being banned, but then that double Blackbird ban as well?
So I think there's 2 things, right? So the first set of bans, right, that Bargas Gila Simi, that's very clearly they're allergic to kite. They don't want to deal with it. Meanwhile, on the other side, they've got the Gila ban because they know the Gila is broken. But other than that, they're going for an armor core ban. They don't like the Vindy. They don't like the Balgorn. Now, on the second set, right, where they got an additional ban, they both went for the Blackbird, which means at that point they're reacting a little bit more to what they've seen the opponents look to play. And so they might be looking at something like a rush or heavy armor core where they think their logic is going to be very critical and they just don't want it to be jammed out.
I think sometimes the other avenue when you see ECM bans, maybe not so much the Blackbird, maybe more the Kitsune instead, is when you want to bring your own ECM and you don't want to be counter jammed. So, for example, if you wanted to bring a Blackbird, maybe you ban the Kitsune because a Kitsune can lock and ban a Blackbird before you can get that ship going. Likewise, if you wanted to bring anything with a spool-based system, so Leshak, Vedmak, Zormzad, anything on those lines, ECM can just be catastrophic because all it has to do is land one jam. Yes, sure, 20 seconds of no damage, but then you have to start your spill from 0 again. And on a ship like the Leshak, that could be just catastrophic. Like just lose so much damage, more than just the 20 seconds of being jammed, but 20 seconds plus the ramp up again. So then if you get broken once again, that whole system just starts. It's just terrible. I like what you said about being allergic to kite. I think that's a very good way of putting it. Barghest Scimitar. I mean, those are key linchpins for kiting comps. So they really wanted to say, hey, if you want to kite, fine, but you're going to have to take something like an Osprey, or you're going to have to kite around with an Hyenas and armor rather than the Barghest and Scimitar. And then Vindicated Balgorn. I mean, that is just like brawl central right there. They're being like, hey, just don't come near us, basically. So I'm interested to see how this match goes. I see the teams have warped in now, so I don't think we're very far away from going to the arena. And oh boy, this does look interesting. Can we go to the arena now, Dirk? Not yet, but we can talk about it anyway. So this match is going to be Murray and Ithaca. That's me, and Murray, you. So let's have a look. What have we got here? Murray, take us through Fancypants.
Alright, I double check that I have the teams right on my overview. Fancypants is T-Dome, correct?
Correct.
Alright. Yeah, so Fancypants looks like they've got much more of that armor control. You got a Leshak to anchor the entire group, and then a lot of smaller stuff around it, I should say. Magus, Dragoon, Draugr, Vexer, a lot of smaller low point ships to allow them to get that Leshak into their composition. They've also taken those extra points from smaller ships and subbed them in for an Iris. But the match is starting, and we see that the opposing team with a Sleipnir rush is diving straight in at that Leshak. They want to punch a hole through the biggest ship in the comp and do it quickly.
That's exactly what they're going to do. And look at those Republic Fleet warriors just streaking across the field straight towards the Kitsune of First Recon. So he's going to have to try and avoid getting just giga-dunked over there and try and do as much damage as possible with his jams. The Fancypants team just backing up away from Jovco, who are chasing them towards the arena boundary right now, trying to just get down and start doing dirty damage to that Leshak, which they seem to be doing quite successfully.
Yeah, Hail Never Fails is going straight into the Leshak. Meanwhile, the Leshak is working on the Bellicose. It had initially started on the Sleipnir, but it looks like they want to switch targets, maybe try something else. No, damage is still on the Sleipnir.
So, important note, the Kitsune is pretty much about to go down. No, he is. There he goes, he's down. The Griffin is down. So that's the ECM for Jovco now completely removed from the field. That's pretty important for this Leshak. His spool is now going to be basically unbroken unless the ship he is shooting can just get out of his range and force him to have to switch ammo. If they can't do that, then he is going to be ramping up to, I don't know, multiple thousands of DPS potentially, depending how it's fit.
Well, that Nairis better start heating if he isn't already, because that Leshak is down in 20% armor. Meanwhile, the Sleipnir of Ice Sovereign is boosting as best he can, but he is still getting chunked through shields by that Leshak as the Leshak starts to really ramp up that damage.
Yeah, I mean, the Hyenas is probably a good 30-40 kilometers away from the Leshak, coming in, trying to get into that optimal, but Leshak bleeding into hull, halfway through hull now. If that Leshak goes down, that is a huge chunk of damage off the field, but the Sleipnir's, he's in half armor. If that Leshak had stayed alive for maybe 10 seconds longer, that Sleipnir probably would have died.
That Leshak going down means this is most likely doomed for the armor control comp. That was the vast majority of their damage. The rest of their comp is so heavily focused on control and support for that Leshak. But now you've got those Sleipnirs, they're just burning straight at other ships in that comp. It looks like they want to take out the last remaining bigger DPS threat in the Vexer. They're also diving towards the Curse as well to see if they can pick that up.
Yeah, I mean, that Sleipnir of Ice Sovereign just slowly going down. It looks to me like this is a buffer fit Sleipnir, which makes sense based on the fact that they have no logistics.
I think it's actually less about buffer and more so the fact that they just have no damage left. The only damage they have left is a Draugr and Vexer drones and the Curse drones, which those ships aren't going to be fit for those drones to be doing big damage.
I'd like to know if those the Griffin and the Kitsune got some successful jams off on the Leshak and on the Hyenas, because that Leshak went down pretty quickly. So I suspect that when the Nero started repping, it was quite late because he got jammed, and then the Leshak might have had his spill broken. It took a while to ramp back up again. If those ships hadn't been there, hadn't landed their jams, I reckon Sovereign is into like what, almost a third armor. He probably would have gone down. Like he was going down when that Leshak died, and then this is a different match.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a tough question, but that Sleipnir got his Ansel shield booster reloaded, so now he is never going to die for the rest of the match. That said, it looks like they are going to be able to knock out the Bellicose of Blue Dagger. The Bellicose, a very interesting ship choice here. You very rarely see it on TQ, and you very rarely see it in tournaments, but it is a ship to be considered when you're looking for paints or when you're looking for some surprising DPS coming from an E-War ship.
Yeah, they trade it for a Dragoon. So it is just the Curse, Aeneas, and Draugr left for Fancypants. Not really an optimal DPS core right there, going up against twin Sleipnirs, Loki, and a Rupture. The Aeneas being alive is... it can prolong the staying power of these ships. It can focus these reps on just two friends now, basically, and try and keep them alive. And that curse, depending how he's fit, can really like screw up the self reps of the Sleipnirs. But can a single Draugr kill them? Probably not. So if you're the Fancypants team, what do you think they could have done differently here? Coming in, seeing, I think they did things pretty well. They put their drones immediately on those ECM boats. They primaried one of the Sleipnirs. It just didn't go their way. Is there anything else they could have done, perhaps?
So the only other thing, which at the very start of the match, they tried to just have everybody kite out and everybody bail. And that meant that the Leshak was going to be the first thing that's getting caught because it's the slowest. And it's the thing they wanted to go on anyway, since it's really the entire core of that comp, and if they can kill it, the match is won. What you can try and do is utilize ships like the Vexor or the Dragoon that aren't critical to the comp, right? If they go down, it's not the worst thing in the world. You send them in, and their sole job is to just slow down the push of the opposing team, to take one or two of those DPS ships, scram them off so it takes them an extra 10, 15, 20 seconds to get on top of that Leshak, and just buy little bits of time for them to work with later on in the match. It's one of those things that certain teams end up getting very good at, and they're some of the scariest teams to throw a rush at, because you know that unless you play the approach perfectly in your rush, they're going to separate your DPS ships, slow you down, and buy themselves just enough time to make sure that they can win the match.
Yeah, GF's spilling into local now as Srothosil warps in his arena clearing Macarial to clean up anyone foolish enough to stay around after the match has ended. Jovco Mining Division taking that victory there over Fancypants in... I like that match. I thought that was actually quite a good match. It could have gone either way. Once it went one way, it was very clearly in that one direction. But for a while, that was quite something. I think we discussed it during the match. I don't think there's much more they could have done except try and separate out that rush team, like you said there, Murray. Yeah, I mean, good execution there by Jovco. Kept it together. The ECM boats went down pretty quickly, but they didn't need them in the end. They broke that Leshak. It was enough just to give them the edge, and that was it. Solid W for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up, we have it's Rusty Hyenas versus RamRod Relulded, and let me scroll down my spreadsheet. Have RamRod submitted bans? Yes, they have. They have submitted bans. This time, interesting bans here. So Rusty Hyenas banning Nighthawk, Balgorn, Paladin, and RamRod banning Nighthawk, Gila, Rattlesnake. With the additional bans, Rusty Hyena banning Abaddon and RamRod banning Leshak. So, Fear, let me bring you in here. What do you make of these bans? So Nighthawk, Balgorn, Paladin, Abaddon, and Rusty Hyenas there.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with the Nighthawk ban because I don't think it's as good in this format as it was in AT. But I will say the Abaddon ban makes sense. We've been seeing it a lot in practices. It's kind of... I wouldn't necessarily call it a gatekeeper comp. There are comps that beat it, but there are comps that don't. So it's like this middle of the road, you ban it, you're not going to deal with that tanky battleship. Where are we? As for the Rattlesnake ban, I mean, they just don't want to deal with a Rattle. And Rapid Heavies plus drones. You ban the Gila as well, same idea. The Leshak ban is a little bit interesting to me because, as we saw there, if you take a Leshak, you have to sacrifice so much of the rest of your comp to make up for that points, or for the extra amount of points that the Leshak costs. And I don't necessarily know if that's worth it every time, as obviously that one was close, but against something that is a little bit more tuned to brawl it out versus this kind of loduless shield rush comp, maybe that Leshak doesn't necessarily do enough. That said, both teams ban the Nighthawk. RamRod obviously won their match earlier, so they're obviously better than me. Paladin, I think, is a little bit interesting as well. I think I don't like Marauders in this format, just generally.
Awesome. So why don't you like Marauders in this format? Talk to me about that. Can they use the Bastion module, for example?
No, they can't use the Bastion module, and that's the issue. I love Marauders on TQ, but the thing about Marauders is that they're basically no tankier than a Hyperion, and they do they do the same amount of damage as a Hyperion without their Bastion module. So why not just use a Hyperion and it costs less points? That's my argument against against Marauders in this format, because you can't use the Bastion; it's against the rules. Otherwise, they'd be broken because you'd be doing 3,000 DPS in a Golem, and they couldn't kill you.
Yeah, I remember Alliance Tournament 12 or 13 when you could still Bastion, and it was lots of stalemates with reverse tie-dye, two Marauders sitting just pounding into each other twice the speed until one died or it goes a tie. Yeah, we're ready to go to the arena. Awesome, fantastic. So let's go to the arena. It is going to be Rusty Hyenas versus RamRod Relulded, and your casters this time it's Fear and, oh my god, it's Ithaca Hawk. Fear, introduce RamRod for me.
I believe RamRod is, dual Phantasms, dual Sleipnir. So this is, I believe, another rush setup, I would have to imagine. This time they've gone for dual Sleipnirs plus Phantasms as they're supporting. Meanwhile, X3, they've gone for dual Scorpion plus dual Vedmak and a Rodiva. So this is very control-y comp. The objective of this, obviously, is to split DPS. We'll see if they'll be able to do that.
Yeah, those two Vedmaks there can be sneaky dangerous because they're not like an immediate obvious primary. Like, you're going to probably ignore them, but they can do a lot of damage when they start ramping up. Likewise, they can be quite tanky. Phantasm's got a lot of projection. Very hard to tackle down, of course, with that AB bonus. So let's see what happens as the match is underway. Both teams sitting completely stationary. And here we go. We see the Rifter of Rusty is burning in toward... No, he's turned around. No, he's dead. That didn't last long.
Yep. Unfortunately, the Rifter is not an amazingly great frigate, as us in the center just got smart bombed by something or other. Kiting away, actually, is RamRod Reloaded. So this actually might be a fly killer comp from them instead of a brawl comp. I'd actually have to take a look. Are those arties on the flaps?
It would make sense based on the way they're flying around right now, but I haven't zoomed in.
That doesn't look like arties to me. They're just kiting away. I'm not exactly
Those
sure.
Are arties.
They are arties, we're
arties?
being told.
Okay.
Awesome. So,
Okay.
I mean, I was rooting for that little Rifter right there. I saw him come flying in. I was like, "You go, little fella," and then he just exploded. Didn't take long. At the moment though, that Vedmak there, Kivat, getting kind of dunked on right now. Holding up, nope, I say that, and he suddenly got chunked. He's going to have to get some reps pretty soon. And December in the Sleipnir also taking a lot of damage. Damage being spread almost everywhere right now. I think this little Skybreaker is causing some chaos.
Definitely is causing some chaos. I also want to point out that the Scorpion of Carl is taking a little bit of damage as well, which means he got a successful jam. But just as we said, that tank goes down in the Logi frigate, so caught out by, I would have to assume, the Pontifex drones, and just absolutely deleted the unfortunate part of the Kirin. As the damage continues to get split. Vedmak of Kizvik is actually getting reps now from the Rodiva. They've decided that you're just going to ramp up on the Vedmak for the time being. The Scorpions have split the DPS enough where this is possible. And they're on an Elno as well in the Scalpel, and he's just melting without any support to help him. They're trading back onto the Pontifex, though.
Yeah, that's the one thing about those frigate Logi is they are just so squishy, and if you get caught out then they just die so quickly. Like they're so fast, but they have to get so close to rep that they just bring straight into damage range. And if there's drones on field, then they're kind of a sitting duck. The two Vedmax holding really well right now. So this match really starting to tip into the favor of Rusty Hyenas. They've really only lost that Rifter, who essentially served no purpose other than to absorb a couple of rounds because he was gone so quickly. But after that, they haven't lost anything, and they've killed 2 logistics frigates. So they're working on clearing off a couple of ships right now. Looks like one of the Phantasms is really struggling a little bit. Sorry, the Pontifex is struggling a little bit right now. If they can remove
He's
that,
got Rediva reps now, though. Yeah, and he's got Rediva reps. I've been watching the spool ever so slightly, and now they aren't killing the Pontifex. They have to move on to something else. We saw a little bit of damage go into Rediva as well, but they haven't really been able to do too much. And primary DPS, I think they're just going for the Scorpion, but you're not going to break a Scorpion under Rediva reps. This one seems to be over in favor of Rusty Hyenas, unless they can somehow kill this Rediva with Artie Sleps and Beam Phantasms.
Yeah, the Rediva, of course, the Tech 1 version of the Zarmzad, it's not as good. It doesn't have those Tech 2 resist, but it does have that spooling rep, so it can rep quite a lot on a single target. If RamRod just chooses to shoot the one thing all day long, it will just get stronger and stronger. It's still a very powerful ship and not much points compared to the Zarmzad, for example. The Pontifex, though, of Nasat is really starting to drop through. The Zarmzad just can't keep him up, and there he goes. The hard thing is when you split damage against a ship like a Rediva or a Zarmzad is he cannot put that spooling rep onto more than one ship. So if he had that on the Pontifex, then that meant the Scorpion was able to get damage as well. As you can see, Scorpion in about half armor and some damage coming to the Vedmax. So it looks like RamRod really splitting the damage here to force that Rediva to choose or break his spool.
And that's why I'm kind of curious as to why they opted for the Rediva here. When they have a dual Scorpion comp, the entire purpose of the comp is to split DPS, right? So having a single thing that you're going to be spooling up on the Rediva doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in my mind. Maybe you go for something like an Augur if you're going for the T1 Logi. That said, December has broken into hull. I believe rapid heavy reloads had been reached on the Scorpions and they just bursted through him. Spooled up reps on the Vedmac will be coming soon enough. I think they're holding off on the Scorpion, going to bait tank him a little bit. And there's the first little bit of a red up, and then we're going to get the second rep. It's going to be bigger and bigger and bigger. Vedmac's going to hold. You're only against Sleipnir and 2 Phantasms, and an already Sleip doesn't do that much in the way of DPS.
Yeah, and this Phantasm is about to eat a bag of dicks right now. There he goes. He's almost completely dead. Really, I mean, the Rediva is just basically spreading what little reps he has around the Scorpion and Vedmac, keeping them both alive. Like, he doesn't need to rep that Scorpion back up to full health right now because Sleipnir and Phantasm aren't really going to put a huge amount of pressure on him, so he can keep that Vedmac alive and allow the damage to keep focused on the Sleipnir and the Phantasm. So a really good match right there from Rusty Hyenas. I mean, shout out to Scorch there, really keeping he's cool. I mean, flying a Rediva is not an easy thing to do. There's a lot more things to think about. You've got to think about your spool. You've got to think about, hey, I'm actually really kind of weak, so if I get caught, I'm kind of screwed. And yeah, good job all round.
Yeah, keeping that Pawnee alive for a bit of time while they were trying to deal with it as well. I mean, I just want to say, like, really good play from Rusty Hyenas to actually take those logistics frigates off the map first. And also, you know, dual Scorpion, sometimes it wins because you're able to sleep DPS properly. Sometimes you don't hit those jams, but this time they hit the jams. They did what they needed to do. There was really no way for the side of RamRod to focus their DPS. And also, they went Fly Killer, and they're up against dual battleships. That's just a bad matchup as well.
Yeah, I think getting those logistics frigates off first was quite important. It's hard for the Rediva because essentially you're not removing any damage for a couple of minutes when you get rid of those. So you're going to bleed some ships, but once you get those down and you can start to stabilize, you're in a much stronger position. So it's a long play. And with that, Rusty Hyenas taking that 90-0 over RamRod in a fantastic match. And let's head back to the desk. Oh, we're back at the desk. Fantastic. So those of you who weren't casting, so Murray and Cher, what do you make of that match? Any takeaways?
I really love the double Scorpion, double Vedmac setup. I think it's super interesting in the way they want to execute it. And it's something that requires a fair bit of skill to execute, right? Because especially post-jam changes when they switch to you can still shoot the thing jamming you. You need to be very good about juggling jams. But that comp gives you a lot of space in which to manage that because Scorpions can be, in and of themselves, pretty tanky. And so it gives you that extra window of time to say, like, oh, okay, I need you to jam this person and this person to get the DPS off me, or I need you to jam this person to switch off the tackle or whatever, right? And it gives you that window to execute. Meanwhile, while they're trying to deal with this gigantic pile of jams from 2 armor Scorpions, you've got 2 Vedmax that are able to move around the map, they're super nimble, and run down targets as you need them to.
All I have to say is GUR ECM bad. Go ahead.
I don't agree with ECM bad. I think when you're doing dual scorp, you're running at a coin flip. Like we've tried dual scorp with various other DPS things and scrims, and it really just depends on like what the other comp is and what they're trying to do, because it absolutely just eats it to drone comps. Or at least when we've flown against drones, it hasn't worked as well because you can try to jam out the drones, but you're not jamming out nearly enough, and stuff like that. So I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's good. I just think it's ECM.
So the thing about
Situational.
ECM is, I think the description in the Chameleon, the Alliance Tournament prize ship, says it best. It's a quote from an NPC in the game somewhere, and it is, "Some capsuleers claim that ECM is dishonorable and unfair. Jam those ones first and kill them last."
That is true.
That is the description on the Chameleon.
That is correct. It is,
which is the AT ship that is both a Gila and a Falcon at the same time, which I assume makes the Gila haters extremely unhappy.
It's a fantastic ship. There's not that many of them left. Speaking of AT prize ships, they will be reissued.
Taking care of those.
They will be.
Just
they
wait
will be
like
reissued.
6 years.
Yeah.
You
coming
look
back
at it with Chameleon. You're old and gray.
I think we're gonna get, what is it, Mimir's next or something? I can't remember. I think
Mimir and Frecky are up first.
There we go.
Garbage
The absolute,
ships.
absolute
So, like,
powerhouse Alliance Tournament prize ships right there.
See what they actually need to do is they need to release more Raven State issues, because all 3 of them are holed up in someone's hangar.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at the there's no APOC Imperial issues left. I think it died. There's only one and it died.
No, I don't think it died. I thought it was in a.
No, it died. It died in a match. No, it died in a match, an AT match in like AT4. They used it as like
that was like well before my time then.
Yeah, so it was a incredibly powerful ship for capacitor. So it had only remote cap transfers on it, like 8 of them or something, and it was essentially just a battery for the rest of the comp. And then, I mean, this ship, if it was all live today, would be worth trillions, literally trillions. And the other team killed every single ship except the IMPOC, and they were trying to ransom the ship on the field while the match was still running rather than kill it. And they asked for, it was like 15 billion, which at the time was a huge amount of money. And the entire alliance couldn't scrape together that amount of money in the like 4 minutes before the match, so they killed it. That's like, at the time, one of the biggest alliances of the game couldn't get the amount of money together. That's how expensive it was. So pretty cool.
Well, the other thing that's interesting is the Raven State issue, up until the Marauder changes, was the highest DPS subcap in the game. But now, it's this 2,000 DPS with Torps. You reached that with cruises on a Golem with Abyssal mods. It's insane. Like, what they need to do is they need to release more Raven State issues so I can get one, and also so they rework it so it's finally the highest DPS subcap in the game again.
If you're looking to buy one, reach out to Blue Melon, one word in game.
No, I know Blue Melon owns one. I also know who owns the other 2. Not gonna name names. He doesn't want to be known.
No, it's definitely Entity. He has all of them. Right, so I see ships on field. I think we're ready to go to the next match. Both of them are calling ready, so let's get ready for that right now. It's going to be Shadow Cartel versus TurboFeed or Glory. This time it's going to be casted by Fear and Chair. So let's swap to the arena, and you guys take the lovely viewers through what they see.
I don't like it. I don't like Shadow Cartel setup at all. I'll give TurboFeed the edge in this one. What about you?
It's Shadow Cartel brought a very top heavy comp in it. It's scary. honestly, to what they're going into. They landed at 0 on a Leshak. They're going to have to pray that their Kitsune carries them to glory, or the Armageddon gets into a good position where its newts are actually effective.
Yeah, and this is
Am
the perfect case for a Rediva as we start the match. Because you know they're going to shoot the Leshak, right? Like,
yeah. Am I reading that right? That TurboFeed has 123 points?
That
Or is there? I think there's a
doesn't
Sleipnir
make
left
sense.
over. There's a Sleipnir left over from last match. Never mind.
Yeah, I don't see a slot in there. That
It's
said, they are
updated now.
primering this Rediva as they start shooting through the Tempest on the Leshak. Now, the good news is the Geddon can eventually newt out a Leshak. It just takes a while because the cap pool on the Leshak is rather large. Small stuff, though, going for the Svipple of Liam. Shadow Cartel about to lose that Svipple, although he is catching reps from the Hyenas.
Mm-hmm. And that Mauler is just making itself known and sitting itself right on top of the Tempest. That Tempest is going nowhere. And you're not breaking that Mauler anytime soon. Especially under
No, you are
Rediva.
not. Once that the Rediva is breaking, we got quite a bit of damage. And actually, what's probably happened is the Geddon's capped out the Rediva, most likely. So now he's not able to rep himself. This could be worst case scenario because you have a Leshak with no Logi. Once this Rediva goes down, they are finally taking down this Kitsune. So no more jams for the Leshak. He'll finally be able to spool up. I think they actually got a jam because the Tempest lost damage for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But this Rediva is falling.
It's an interesting choice on their side to go for the Tempest first. I feel like if your Logi's dying, I feel like you have to go for the Logi trade.
Either the Logi trade or go for the Geddon, but like you're not going to track an Oneirus in this, or you're not going to kill an Oneirus in this comp. That's not what this comp's meant to do. This comp is meant to take out the big targets. That's what the Leshak is good at. They finally have some tackle on those Oneirus, so it is starting to fall, but you've only got Mauler, Absolution, Vexer on it, I think. Let me double check. So he might actually be able to tank this for a bit at least.
They basically, their only hope right now is for the Leshak to sit there and spool up and be able to do its amazing DPS.
This Oneirus is actually falling pretty quick. Did the Leshak swap?
It did.
I think he did swap to the Oneirus.
It did.
So yeah, that Rediva falling does not feel very good for the Leshak comp because and plus the Geddon now I assume is full neuting the Leshak. I mean, really smart plays I think from Shadow Cartel. Heads up plays to realize that Rediva's in newt range of the Geddon. Go in, newt him out. And Rediva and the Zarm both have cap issues when they're under cap pressure, so absolutely just melts. Couldn't even get a local rep off.
Yeah, I feel like that was a real
Shaq's
failure.
going down as well.
Yeah, I feel like that was a real failure on the Mauler and like the Wolves. Not the Wolf, sorry, the Mauler or the Vexer, or just something, stick it on the Armageddon just to keep it away from your Logi and hope you live.
But I mean, it's just warp ranges, right? They warped the Geddon at 0, and they I think they warped in the Rediva at 30 or something like that. It was not 50, which was what I would have expected.
Yeah. What is the rep range on that? It's much the same to the.
I think it's the same as a regular T2 logistics cruiser. It's just the Geddon. I mean, you're in the fall, like at 50, you're in the fall off with the newts, and you can kind of pull out. But then you're leaving your Leshak in the dust, so you're kind of forced to just sit and take it, and then they get you with the Geddon newts and the follow-up drones. Leshak's dead. Absolution, Mauler, and Vexer, last one's alive. They should fall pretty quickly.
Yeah, this is a pretty quick match. But with what we were saying with the
72. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe a mispiloting or miswarping on that Rediva, because
with the new buffs to battleships, along with the new the reversal of half of the surgical strike patch, I feel like a Leshak can tank for a solid minute, especially to Tempest and Armageddon. There's not that much like oppressive DPS on the field that's I would be scared of as a Leshak pilot. I feel like it was a big piling miserror for the Rediva to get caught by the Armageddon there.
Yeah. It happens, right? These are practices. You live, you learn. Cap warfare absolutely sucks for the Rediva, absolutely sucks for the Zarm. You know, there
Pun
are
intended,
many
or?
things. They don't really suck though. See, that's the Balgorn that sucks. Or the Crewer. Has anyone ever flown a Crewer in one of these Alliance Open, or not Alliance Open Opens, AG Opens? I want to see a Crewer. That would be fun.
I agree. Why don't next week you bring Brave and bring some Crewers?
Yeah, we keep our practices private for now. Not because we're tryharding, but because we can't. We have a schedule, and unfortunately, it doesn't really line up well with the Alliance Opens for getting people, or not Alliance Opens, the Opens for getting people to participate in the Opens.
Cat herding is one of the hardest jobs when it comes to running a tournament team.
Oh yeah, well, I'm the dedicated cat herder for the team, so not the captain. That's Dujek. I'm the vice captain, for lack of a better word.
Oh, so you got delegated.
Yeah, basically, I got delegated to do all the cat herding stuff, while Dujek does all the fun stuff. That is what it is. Either way, this absolution's about to go down, and then the Mauler, and then everyone dies. I'm interested to think why they picked the absolution over the damnation. I think the damnation's a little bit better in this format. Am I wrong?
The absolution has really good application. I feel like the damnation on paper looks really good, especially if you stick hams on it and it has drone DPS, but it doesn't apply its damage very well. That's one of the big things.
It's also tankier.
It is indeed, but they went up to a comp that relies on a single distract doing most of their damage, and then they tried to put a little band-aid over it with an absolution.
I guess. Either way, Mauler's the last one to fall, and that is game. Shadow Cartel take the match. Back to the desk.
That was Shadow Cartel taking TurboFeed glory. In this case, it was definitely TurboFeed. No glory. I mean, some glory. They killed a couple of ships, so medium glory. But their own name says that it's kind of a binary decision: TurboFeed or glory. In this case, it definitely must therefore be turbo feeding. The next match coming up: Spectre Fleet versus Jovco Mining Division. I mean, props to the guys in the back that are organizing this right now. So Soth doing the cleanup, and we got Rain Chocolate who's doing the refereeing today, herding the cats basically, as you've just alluded to. Doing a great job, keeping things pretty much on schedule, getting the teams in, ready to rock and roll as quickly as possible. Assuming, of course, they bring legal comps, that helps. But yeah, like good job with the production thus far, and of course Dirk, who's doing all the camera work and cutting around and things like that. The rest of us, we just talk shit, basically. That's our job. Luckily, I'm very good at that. So our next match in just a few minutes, it's scheduled for 6 minutes for now, but I think we're actually almost ahead of schedule. So it's going to be Spectre Fleet, Jovco Mining Division. We've seen Spectre Fleet already. We've seen Jovco Mining Division. Let's look at the bans. So Spectre Fleet banning Gila, Zarmzad, and Hyena. Jovco banning the Gila, Blackbird, Widow, and Balgorn. Interesting. Not entirely sure why they have. Of course, Spectre Fleet didn't submit their duplicate ban, so they just decided, hey, 3's enough for us. You have an extra one, friends, and let Jovco ban the Balgorn. What do you make of these bans, anyone?
There's a couple of new ones in here that are definitely interesting in terms of what they might indicate they want to bring. The Hyena ban in particular, right, is something that you don't often see because there's not too many comps where the Hyena tends to be a critical ship, but when it is, it's almost always being used for application. So if I'm banning the Hyena, it's usually because I've got something small like my logistics frigates that I really don't want to get tackled because they survive based entirely off of whether or not they're able to go at full speed. On the other side, the Widow is a fun one because Widow, while very rarely seen, does have the potential to basically be a little bit of a scorpion on a little extra steroids, right? Because on top of those very powerful jams, it has improved resists and it also has a fair bit of damage in and of itself. So it can be kind of a 2-for-1 in terms of utility and DPS, but it's another ship that you really need to be very conscious about what kind of comp you're slotting it into, because it costs a lot of points and isn't the tankiest. So you need to be very conscious about where you put it. That said, they also banned the Blackbird, so that may just be part of their we hate ECM strategy, but they definitely are concerned about some of those more powerful ECM ships.
Yeah,
One
I'm
here.
Mhm.
Spectre Fleet only has 3 bans because they tried to ban Zarmast and Oneros, and they are only allowed to ban 1 Logi.
Oh, this is the 3 Logi ban. I see.
There you go. Well, Jovco banning the Blackbird and Widow basically says to me, and Nagila, of course, is they want to bring something small. It's quite important, kind of a linchpin to their fleet. So they don't want Nagila to just press F on it. And the Blackbird and the Widow basically says, "Hey, we're probably going to bring an ECM frigate. We don't want you to bring ECM, so you can take your ECM and shove it up your arse with your Blackbird and your Widow and get them right out of here." And the Balgorn is just like, oh well, it's got long webs as well, so it can also get to fuck. We have one team already landing on the field. Looks like not an unexpected comp, except one very interesting ship sitting there in the middle. We're waiting for Jovco to land on field. They still have 2 minutes. We're ahead of schedule.
Are you talking about the faction ship?
Yes.
And he's talking about the dude in the
Yeah.
capsule who forgot to bring his ship.
Oh man, someone forgot to bring a ship because there are only 6 of them on grid. But
Yeah.
I see said faction ship, and I'm curious as to why they chose it, because its bonuses are good, but also it's very squishy.
Well, here we go. So the Jovco guys landing on field. Can I just point out, I called exactly what I said they were going to bring when I
Yes.
said about their bans. I'm going to, I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm currently patting myself on the back. Well done, me. Really great job. We can't hand the arena just yet because they're still sitting at range because they're a bunch of cowards. But once they warp in and get ready to fight, we can. Without giving too much away, Murray, what do you make of these 2 comps here?
Honestly, one team built their comp entirely around hating the increased points for duplicate ships and built their entire comp around that. I don't know if that'll work, but that's what they did. And I think Jovco are running it back with the same thing, which pretty standard looks like.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what ranges these guys warp in at. Here they come there. Oh, here we go. I see some top men right here.
This is a fat everything is 0 comp. All right.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, who's that? 20? Cowards. Some of them warped to 0, some of them warped to 20. One of them warped at 30.
Those are
D20
blasters as well.
Oh yeah, I see 20
I'd like to point out that this man is angry that they did not warp their logistic ships at 0, which
yeah, I mean you got to lick the stamp and send it. Go full in. Like none of this like semi in. Like what is this absolute bullshit? Get in there, Ned. If I don't see you approach the center, I'm gonna be very disappointed. Okay, they're basically all in. So Dirk, take us to the arena. And let's have a look at who's casting this one. It's gonna be Murray and Chair.
How's it going, everyone? So looking at our Vigilant comp going on here, there's a Vigilant, Harb Navy, or Harb, Og Navy, Brutix. They all have close range guns. And I'm very excited to see what they're able to do with them.
Yeah, for sure. They warped at 0, and they are ready to brawl. The other team chose to warp in a bit farther away, but they are also brawl fit. Those Sleipnirs are autocannon, and they're also ready to rumble. So there's a good chance we'll see these teams just go at each other. However, there is potentially room for Jovian to try and kite for a little bit and spread out the opposing team. It's a very tricky maneuver to do in a brawl comp, but if they can manage it, then there's a chance they can use it to gain a slight advantage in the fight.
That Kitsune and Griffin have their work cut out for them. They're going to have to be making a beeline for opposite sides of the arena as fast as possible. Because they're pretty much the linchpin in this comp against these brawly boys.
Another very important ship is the Loki on the Jovian side. That gives them a bit of extra control that the other team doesn't really have access to with their comp.
And with the links going up, the match is about to start. We'll see how Jovco decides to play it. Because we know Spectre Fleet is just going to be press and approach. And it looks right off, the Vigilants are getting on top. They're both ramming into each other.
Yep.
And
Teleguy in the Vigilant is taking heavy damage to start the match as they are ripping through his armor.
it looks like the Kitsune is primarily jamming a Draugr, which is not good for him. And the Vigilant has gone pop.
Yep.
That
Another
was
key point,
very fast.
which I didn't even notice before. The Sleipnir Rush is actually lodulus. They are on a timer. They need to kill as much as they can, as fast as they can, because there's no point at which they stabilize. Damage right now is going onto the Loki. They're looking to get rid of that utility. Meanwhile, I'm also seeing a fair bit of damage going onto the Brutix of Virion Stone Shard.
The Kitsune has also boundaried, so they're down one Kitsune.
That is extremely unfortunate for them. Those jams are a lot of their tankiness at this point, and one of the main things they can use to try and deal with that in Nyros.
I think they have done enough, though.
Pop goes the Brutix. That's 2. It all depends on whether or not they can kill that Loki. If they can kill the Loki, maybe additionally the Bellicose, there's a chance that Nyros can start holding. But they're losing DPS ships too fast at this point.
Both the Sleipnirs are very healthy. Loki's tanking.
It looks like the Loki had actually been able to kite out a fair bit and got out of range of the short-range DPS ships, and so they were actually forced to swap targets.
Yeah. With Skirmlings and the T2 overheated on the Loki, I think it's about, 28-kilometer web? Give or take? With the right system. So he can definitely keep people out at a arm's length.
Yep. Meanwhile, the Draugr is going to go down. It got webbed down by the Loki, and everything is now dogpiling onto it. That'll be another DPS ship down, and with basically no damage left, it looks like this match is pretty much over for Spectre Fleet.
Good old rush comps, over in the first minute.
Yeah, I had to say, one of the most interesting things is that we haven't really seen much in the way of Lodulus comps so far, particularly because of how powerful Logi is with only 7 ships on field. And this one has worked twice now. So it's something that might cause a couple of teams to sit back and say, hey, do we have something that can deal with this? Is this a kind of strategy that we need to take a look at?
Your tank really relies on those 2 E-War frigates and them being able to basically get away from you and you not being able to do anything about it. Because you're going to have a Sleipnir on your face. It's not letting you move anywhere in the Loki as well. So they get to jam everything for free. And you just kind of have to sit there and take it. So,
for sure, it's definitely a risky strategy, something that is extremely dependent on how well you utilize those jams early. But it seems to be working for him. This is the second win they've managed to pull with it today. And that kind of the heavy core of the double Sleipnir Loki with the 2 other cruisers in support seems to be working very well for them.
as this Onero slowly boats towards the edge of the arena, trying his best to reach glory.
Gotta go fast. And then the cleanup continues as the Nyros is about to get killed. And with that Nyros down, this fight is pretty much over. Actually, it's over. Yep. GF's in local as the fight wraps up, and we'll head back to the studio shortly.
Yep, Jovco Mining Division taking that one over Spectre Fleet in a very quick match, much quicker than some matches, that's for sure. But that's what you get when you go no Logi rush comp. I mean, rush comps were like an absolute classic in AT years gone by. The Galenty Rush, Mimitar Rush, etc. They were all like super popular.
Nighthawk Rush.
Yeah,
Nighthawk Loki Rush was extremely dominant over the past 2 years, really.
Yep,
yeah.
since the
It's one of the
Alliance Open,
few.
basically.
I think it's one of the few like remaining full classic Rush comps, because you used to get like these like hull tank blaster Rush comps that would just warp in at 0 and go flying in, and occasionally you still see one brought at like, if in like Alliance tournament format, for example, they kind of tricksy ban the other team into bringing like a flagship or some comp that they've been running, which has got quite a key linchpin ship, and then you warp in your rush comp, and you're probably going to lose the match, but you're just going to try and headshot that flagship. So it's still got its place, but maybe not in this 7v7 comp. The one thing about no logi rushes is just the no logi thing. Like, as you said in the match, you're on a clock. If you don't get ahead of that schedule, you're really screwed.
I mean, you're doing 1,000 DPS with hams on your Loki, though. Is kind of the thing. Like, you're trading out Logi, but you're getting crap ton of DPS.
Yeah, but if the other team has Logi and they can keep their ships alive while you feed your ships, I mean, you got to break something quick. Like, you will not recover. They will. Like, there comes a tipping point where your damage is offset by their Logi. So either you just try and skidunk their Logi right at the start, which if you can't get to them, you're screwed. Or you try and take out their DPS and hope that you can not bleed too much before their logistics starts to overtake you.
Or you're up against 2 Vigilants who are extremely squishy.
Yeah, that is true. Vigilants have a very large DPS number and good webs, but not much in the way of tank.
However, those weren't the only squishy ships on grid, right? The Rupture and Bellicose on the side of the Loki Sleipnir comp, right? Both of those ships actually have fairly strong DPS and near paper tank. And looking at ships like that are going to be your biggest priority when, as the team with logistics, you are looking to get just enough DPS off field that you can stabilize. Because once you stabilize, the match is over. The enemy team can't kill you, and even if it takes you a while to kill them, you'll win eventually. And so going for the tankiest ship on that grid, which is the Loki, instead of one of those ships that can potentially knock, 3, 4, 500 DPS off grid, can sometimes be a big mistake.
Yeah. I mean, Ruptures are fun. They do a lot of DPS, and they're cheap, and you can roam in them.
Cheap, yeah. Yeah, let's look forward to the next match, because it's only a few minutes away. The schedule is moving pretty quick. We have Fancypants coming up versus Wolves Among Strangers, or Wolves Among Strangers, I should say. Fancypants choosing to ban the Sleipnir, Barghest, and Curse. Wolves banning Aniris, Gila, and Ishtar. So it looks like Wolves saying, hey, we don't really want to see drones, especially the Gila, because it's broken AF. The Ishtar, it's not quite as strong as the Gila, but by golly, can you fit a lot of drones in an Ishtar? So let's just get rid of that as well. And the Aniris makes any sort of drone comp and heavy armor comp very easy to kind of kite around. So if you want to bring armor, you're going to have to bring a Guardian or a Tech 1 Logistics, or maybe a Zarmazad. Who knows?
Or a Diva.
Or a Diva. Sure, there's other options. It used to be, it was very easy. You ban the Aniris, they're bringing a Guardian. Now there's all sorts of things. Fancypants banning Sleipnir, Barghest, Curse. That says to me, hey, we don't want to see kiting kind of fly killer stuff, and we don't want to see really powerful newts. So we're bringing some sort of cap heavy comp. And who knows? What do you make of this, Murray?
I mean, the Gila Ishtar, very clear, very simple. We don't want to deal with drones. They banned out all the potential drone midline. There's nothing else they can do there. The other side, it feels like they banned a couple of specific ships individually to remove a couple of individual comps rather than like kind of an overall archetype, right? You could still bring Kite, you could still bring Rush, you could still bring Control, but they just don't want to see those specific ships because they think if you get rid of that 1 or 2 ships, then they might have an edge over that kind of comp.
Yeah, and what do you? Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think about this fear?
I agree. That said, I can see what Wolves Among Strangers have brought on grid, and I understand why they banned the Aniris now. But that being said, Fancypants, I mean, take out the... I don't agree with the Barghest ban, I will say. I just don't think, of the faction battleships, I don't think the Barghest is as powerful in this format because it's not discounted like it was in AT. That's my only comment on it.
I mean, I can't remember an alliance term the Sleipnir wasn't like a ban magnet, to be honest. Sleipnir's always been a very popular ship in tournaments, at least since like 89 or 10. And I mean, it's just a powerful ship. It's very versatile. It's got links. It's got good damage in autocannons or artillery. It can kite. It can brawl. It's just such a powerful ship. Probably one of, if not the most iconic tournament ships in EVE Online, in my opinion.
True. That is true. Also, Brave are known to not do the Sleipnir and instead do the Nighthawk because we're Brave and we have to do things differently. Always.
Oh, here we go. So Fancypants landing on grid now. Interesting comp here from them. That's for sure. This should be interesting. I see what
one ship.
Yeah, I see what they've done is they've tried to see if they could get the DPS number as high as possible, and see what happens if you then try and add some support to that. So yeah, this one should be very interesting, especially based on what they're going up against.
Yeah.
Can we go to the
bring.
arena yet? I mean, they're all in. Yeah, Dirk, put us in the arena. It's going to be Murray and Ithaca for this one. Wow, what a great pair. Okay, so look at
this. You can see that Inaro span doing work because they pushed them into bringing the Zarm, and they've stacked up their jams, which I suspect many of those are going to be MR.
Yeah, exactly what I was just want to point out. Rook and Blackbird. So that is a lot of jams. And the Rook is very tanky. The Blackbird's got range, of course, but the Rook can be very tanky. Well, let's just go through the team. So Wolves Amongst Strangers bring a Vindicator, so big boy damage right there. The Rook for jams, Rediva for DPS, not as good as Zarmazad, but less points. 2 Draugrs, so links and quite a lot of damage. Pontifex and a Blackbird. So really, it's the Draugrs, the Vindicator, and the Rook a little bit for DPS here. Fancypants, Murray, what have they brought?
They actually have some jams of their own. They brought a single Scorpion to do the jamming. Meanwhile, on the back end, their damage core is going to be some Oracles, which are going to be big damage that can project out potentially towards those ECM ships on the other side, but they are not tanky. So if some lucky jams go off, those Oracles can very easily disappear, especially because the Zarm breaking that spool is so huge.
Yeah, there's one thing about like Oracles in this meta, or at least in this type of match, is you kind of have to fly them like they're a gigantic slicer and just kite away, do damage from range, and just don't get caught. If you do, you're already dead. There's no point in even broadcasting for reps. You're done for. The thing is, though, they absolutely just shit out DPS like nobody's business. Like they just do a huge amount of DPS, especially if they're in a good position. They can come in and get into like Scorch range or even Conflag range. Then they can just obliterate things. But they are the definition of a paper tank. As the match is underway and we see exactly what happens. Bit of a good warp in, really, for Wolves Among Strangers, almost as close as they possibly could be from Fancypants, their warp in, just because of the oblique angles there, as we see the Draugrs and the Vindicator charging towards the back line, and the Rook immediately taking turbo damage to the face.
I'm surprised they dove in. They just ignored the Scorpion that was sitting right next to them and have dove in towards that back line instead. Perhaps they want to pick up the Zarm. Perhaps they want to try and pick up some of these Oracles. It looks like they're all diving towards different targets right now, potentially trying to see just what they can pick up.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they just thought, hey, nope, that's bait. Let's ignore that boy and head off and try and catch some other stuff. And the Zarmazad is taking some damage. The Rook's taking some damage. But at the moment, nobody's really threatening to break right now. But we'll see what happens. How well is the Zarmazad going to tank? Can he get away? Because he's getting chunked through shield. It doesn't look like he's actually tackled yet. He is sort of curving away from the Draugrs and the Vindicator, who is valiantly, Bobby and the Vindicator, trying to chase down his Zarmazad in the battleships. Probably not going to happen. But he is doing his absolute best, and that's all we can ask.
You can see some of the jams on the other side are starting to do decent work. The damage is really only going onto a little bit on the Blackbird, a little bit on the Rook, as the oracles try to take pot shots at the things that are keeping them jammed.
Yeah, I mean, what's going to happen is there's going to be a couple of jams are going to land from the rook and the blackbird, and it could just tip the match. Or conversely, they could miss a couple of jams and it could tip the match. The oracles probably need to try and focus down that rook. I imagine he's going to be the easiest one for them to kill in terms of range. The Rodiva doesn't have the rep power of the Zarmzad, and he can split his reps. Maybe they can force him off. It looks like maybe that's what they're trying to do right now, is damage now onto the Rodiva. And the rook is actually taking a lot of damage. He's into almost half armor. Not getting repped. Oh, now he's getting repped.
The rook is hurting, for sure. And the Rodiva is also it's very close to being tackled. There's an Odd Navy that's just barely out of range of it. And it's trying to get in, but there's a Pontifex that's trying to keep that Rodiva safe by screening off the Og Navy.
I mean, those oracles are being very, very brave. Big Balls and Anthony Parker, they're sitting completely stationary as a Vindicator charges towards him in his oracle.
It gave him the tracking to blow up that rook. The rook goes down, and you immediately see damage going onto that blackbird. They figure if they can kill one, they can take out the other two and make this match some smooth sailing.
Yeah. That blackbird now getting removed. He's going to go down a lot easier than a rook, especially if he's out of range of the Rodiva, which blackbirds almost certainly are. They just tend to hang around at 124 kilometers if they can and stay away from everything else. Bobby in that Vindicator has to get onto someone and start applying those 90% webs. Otherwise, this is game over.
I think the Rodiva was in range, but it's currently getting jammed by the Scorpion. The Scorpion definitely has a couple jams going out towards it. And if that Scorpion has a couple of them are jams, the Rodiva doesn't have the greatest of sensor strengths, so it could easily be perma-jammed for most of the match.
Yeah, the Pontifex of Wolves Among Stranger currently looks like he's going to go down as well. There he goes. So removing some of the links from the field. It is just the two Draugrs left, the Rodiva and the Vindicator for Wolves Among Stranger. Never count out a Vindicator. Like a Vindicator can do a lot of damage to a lot of things whenever it wants to. But I think in this case, it's going to get damage done to it.
Yeah, and the Pontifex have been screening for the Rodiva, so now with nothing to keep it off, the Og Navy is able to sit on top of that Rodiva at 0 and hold it down so those big DPS numbers from those oracles can easily apply as the Rodiva goes boom.
Yeah, I feel like the Wolves Among Strangers team just needed to remove those two oracles as soon as possible. I mean, sacrifice like a Draugr, send a Draugr in to try and get one, and then trundle in that Vindicator and blap it, and then send in the second Draugr to get the second oracle or something, because they do like potentially well over 1,000 DPS, and they don't have much tank, like maybe like 15-20k HP. Like, it's not going to be a huge amount. So a Vindicator can make short work of them, but they have to be caught first. A Vindicator will not catch them by himself.
Yeah, I think the big question that they're going to be asking themselves after this match was, should we have just gone on that Scorpion? The Scorpion can't jam them in order to keep that damage from spooling on the Scorpion, and it's just him. So if they had those two Draugrs spooling, they had that Vindicator shooting, maybe they might have been able to kill him.
I reckon what they should have done is put the Scorpion, the Vindicator and the Scorpion at 0, just overheat like straight into his face, and then sent the Draugrs off to harass the Oracles, because that Zarmzad can only spool on one thing at a time, and 2 Draugrs will kill an Oracle in no short time. A Vindicator will do a lot of damage to Scorpion. That Zarmzad would then have to choose between saving an Oracle or keeping his Scorpion buddy alive, and that would probably be the decision that would win Wolves Among Strangers the match.
The Scorpion's secret anti-dying strategy is revealed as the Vindicator was shooting him, and he said, "I'm not having that," and MJD'd off to the side.
I don't think that's it's going to be good news for the Vindicator now. He's sitting there with his dick in his hand like, well, shit, nothing to do now except wait to die as his last buddy goes down in that Draugr. The Vindicator's just... I mean, he can't do anything. There's no one he can hit. The nearest person to him is an Oracle 25 kilometers away, and Vindicators don't tend to apply very... Real Vindicators do, but I suspect, and this is just theory, but I'm suspicious that this might not be a real Vindicator.
Probably not. Well, he's got some Oracles shooting him now, and those Oracles will definitely manage to do enough DPS as this match gets into the cleanup phase.
I mean, that Scorpion's barely moving as well, so I reckon... And he's trying to motor in. I'm looking at him right now. He's motoring towards the field, trying to get back into damage range. He's only got 104 meters per second, so he's not propped. So that Vindicator, if he'd shot him at the start and that Scorpion had done the hoop-de-doop and flopped out of there with the macro jump unit, the Vindicator could have just turned around and done the same thing. And if anyone had come in to try and scram him to stop him, like maybe the Ognavi or the Magus or something like that, he could have just killed it and then jumped after that Scorpion Navy, and then the match is still on because you still send the Draugrs after the Oracle. But now your Zarmazad can't go save the Scorpion because he's 100 kilometers away, like a lemon. I think that Wolves Amongst Rangers could have won this match if they'd gone for the Scorpion at the start.
Yeah, there are definitely some different options at the very least to try. And it's one of those things that in a best of one, you're just left thinking about. No redos.
Yeah, the only problem with this match now is we have to sit here and watch 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 people, well, 5 people because sometimes I can't shoot. 5 people shoot a Vindicator, which is
They'll
just
get around to it
he's
eventually.
just micro jumped away. He's going again. He's just micro jumping again. Off he goes into the oblivion. There he goes. He's now 197 kilometers away. Fortunately, he doesn't blow up because this isn't the Alliance tournament, and we don't have the tool. So, see you later, Bobby. You survived, but you didn't really. And with that, let's go back to the desk. So, Fear, what did you think of that match? What were your takeaways?
I mean, you're absolutely right about the Vindy. Should have just gone on the Scorp at the beginning, and they should have split DPS on the Zarm. You have to think critically about what the weakness of the enemy comp is, and in that case is, like, the Oracles are completely squishy. Yes, the Scorpion can jam out your Draugrs while they're spooling on the Oracles, but so long as you're dealing with this Scorpion and another target on the Draugrs, the Zarm can't keep up. And even then, like, the Zarm onto the Scorpion, when it was just the 2 Draugrs and the Vindicator left, they were breaking him until the Draugrs died. So you're absolutely on the money, I think, with that assessment. Also, I don't like single Scorpion, but it worked. So I think 2 Scorpions is better, but I digress.
So just looking at the matches thus far, in terms of red versus blue, according to my notes, because I forgot to write down who won the first match, so far the only blue team to have won is Jovco Mining Division, winning twice as blue. Every other match has been the red team that has won. So if someone can fill in the gap of my knowledge and tell me who won between Rusty Hyenas and TurboFeed Glory, I will be able to tell you if my stat does hold water or
It was TurboFeed.
Oh, it's ruined. They're blue. I thought they were red.
Yeah.
I thought okay.
It was TurboFeed or Glory that won that one because they brought Triple Gila and so Rusty Hyenas.
I couldn't remember who brought what, and then I couldn't remember who won. So
yeah,
like, oh, that's nice. Only Jovco won in blue. What a cool stat. Nope, nonsense.
And TurboFeed.
Well, we have a rematch coming up next. Actually, Rusty Hyenas are going up against TurboFeed Glory again. So this is the chance for Rusty Hyenas to turn the Glory into turbo feeding, and take one back, bringing their series to 1-1. Or alternatively, they could feed again. So Rusty Hyenas have won one today. They won against RamRod. They have lost against TurboFeed. So this is their third match of the day. So they want to go home with a 2-1, especially over TurboFeed, who bet them in match 1 of the day. Let's just scroll down and have a look at the bans. So Rusty Hyena banning Gila, Eos, Zarmzad, Rattlesnake, and TurboFeeder Glory banning Gila, Barghest, Ishtar, and Curse. Murray, what do you make of these bans here? Or Fear? Oh, no, Murray's here.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot more. Jeez, that's a lot of drone bans. Nobody wants to see drones today.
I think I speak for everyone when we all agree with that.
No more Gilas, please. No Gilas, no Eos, no Ishtar. I mean, just taking all the drones off the table. I mean, the curse ban from Turbo says they want something that's dependent on cap. and I see what they have here, and it definitely is dependent on cap. So that makes sense. Meanwhile, Rusty Hyenas. I don't want to do drones. I'm seeing what they're bringing on field, and I'm curious as to how one of these ships is fit.
Yeah,
That'll tell us a lot.
I mean, to be honest, both of these comps are a little bit abnormal, shall we say?
It's a pun, but you don't get it yet.
Especially the logistics choices. Worth noting, the only logistics ship banned is the Zarmzad, so all the standard logistics ships available right now, and both teams choosing what is generally considered not the optimal choice. I mean, they're all here, they're all in the arena. Let's just switch to the arena, we can talk about them. So Rusty Hyenas, in red on your screen, bringing an Osprey rather than the scimitar, which is a lot more common with shield
it would
comps.
be the scythe, not the Osprey, because I T1 Logi.
True. Also, T1 Logi, worth bringing that up as well. I mean, it's points wise, obviously, they don't have the points. And then on the other side, it's a Guardian rather than a Neros. That's, in my opinion, a more interesting choice. The Guardian does have more rep power, but it is a lot less versatile. It's much harder to keep cap stable. You can't really dual prop it. It's slower, but it does rep more.
Oh, well, they banned the curse.
The countdown's running. It's Fear and Ithaca for this one. Bake it away, toys.
Something like that. Anyways, I'm interested to see how the Serbs are fit and how the Claymore is fit as I take a look at their models. Because this could go one of two ways. You're either HML fit or you're ham fit, right? And I believe those are heavy assault missiles. If I'm not mistaken.
Looks like TurboFeed all trying to brawl in. Rusty Hyenas sort of not running away, but not brawling in. Everyone's sort of like, well, maybe we shouldn't brawl in now. Yeah, that didn't take long. The Osprey's taking a bit of damage as well.
Yeah, we'll see how much the self-rep is on the Osprey. Obviously, same Guardian, Osprey, Basilisk, etc. They're all dependent on other things in cap, in TQ, cap chaining and all that. So we'll see how well this Osprey fares. That said, the Guardian is taking some damage right now. So I was wrong. These are not ham fit. These are HML fit. I can't read models for some reason, as they are onto this Guardian. Damage coming on the Orthrus, though. They nearly volley him. Oh, these Abbas are right on top of him. Nysat and the Orthrus barely keeping reps right now, but he will end up falling. Double Oracle plus Abba. That's a whole lot of damage coming down onto Nysat.
Yeah, and there's just not really much a single Tech 1 logistics cruiser is going to be able to do against that amount of damage coming from all of those lasers in the Turbo.
Gives out a burnout, though.
I mean, he survived. He got a couple of hits at the start. Probably tried to. I think what they did is just shot him a couple of times, forced him away. He's burned off. He's now trying to turn around and come back in. But meanwhile, his team is struggling. That Oracle, though, of Lester of the Weevils is into very low armor into hull. He's going to go down. Tiro now in that Guardian, not able to keep him up. There you go. One Oracle down. That's a lot of damage removed from the field right now. Big removal right there.
Yeah, and the Guardian's done about 2/3 armor, but they're not focusing DPS on that. Instead, they're under Drac, and he just melts. He's an Oracle. He has no tank whatsoever. So Nysat baiting quite effectively, going all the way down to the structure, keeping up in the shields. Now all the damage that they have is onto the Cerberus, who's already popped his ADC, but they've lost both Oracles. That's a significant chunk of damage. The only damage they have left on the field is this Abaddon, and he will be very difficult to grind through, but they have the damage on field. Two HML Cerberus, plus a Claymore and an Orthrus. I think this one is pretty much wrapped up now. Even with this Guardian on field, he's just not going to be able to do too much.
Yeah, I mean, never count out on Abaddon. They do an absolute buttload of damage. As you can see, the Nestat there in that Orthrus is, even though he's a good 50 kilometers away from the Abaddon, is taking a chunk of damage through shield. He doesn't have much buffer left as well. So Milton in that Osprey is going to have to move over to him, try and keep him alive. But meanwhile, that Arbitrator also starting to drop down as well. Look, there you go, he's down. So now it is literally just the Abaddon. Having that Hyena still alive, though, is quite important because, I mean, to be honest, the best move for the Rusty Hyenas at this point.
Hyena's dying.
If you're that's bad news for them then. I was going to say the best news for them would be the best news for Rusty Hyenas would be to just get in and just orbit that Abaddon at like 5 kilometers. because it can't hit you. It's going to be really hard
I mean,
to kill it with the Guardian, so they have to remove the Guardian first, which they're now doing.
yeah, HML Serbs don't apply amazingly to Guardians, but they'll apply enough.
Well enough, yeah.
Plus you get... And he's in structure. There he is. Now onto the ABBA. And no amount of resist bonuses can save you from what is probably about 2,500 DPS, if not more, on field right now.
Good, really good web application from Scorch in that Hyena for Rusty Hyenas. Really living up to the name of his team there. Getting in, slowing down the targets, getting defensive as well, keeping the heavy tackle away from his core. I mean, Nestat there must be clenching his butthole because he's only 30% structure remaining. Jezza McWaffle sitting at 50 kilometers. Abaddon's, they do take time to die, so we do have some time to talk about this match, I think. So what do you think they could have done differently, TurboFeed or Glory here?
I mean, they needed to tackle something and just delete it off the field, and it needed to be DPS. They actually started shooting at the Sorceress, and they had the range because you're in Oracles and an ABBA, but because I don't have a whole lot of low end in that comp outside of, I think, a Hyena, right? They just couldn't get on top of the target they were shooting at, and he was able to burn away, and you only have a limited range on lasers. Orthrus and Serb both have a range bonus. In fact, Serb
he just volleyed the Serb.
Deleted on a single volley. That's what happens when you don't keep your transversal up against an Abaddon, but he finally falls. You know,
he got cocky. He was like, "Oh, I don't have to worry. We've won the match." Bam! Never count out the Abaddon. Just saw him not moving. Probably did a little bit of transversal matching, and then just absolutely giga-dunked. Jezza McWaffle there. He ate shit in the end, but he took someone with him, and that's all that matters. So let's go back to the desk.
I'm still saying not enough low end. They just couldn't catch the target they were trying to kill.
Yeah, essentially that was the problem. Like, Oracles, you don't catch anything in an Oracle, because if you do, you're dead as well. Abaddon, it doesn't move. It's absolutely stationary, just incredibly slow. And then what else did they have for tackle? Not really a huge amount. Murray, what did you make of that match, watching from the sides?
I mean, one of the big things with like an Abaddon Oracle style comp, right, is your projection actually isn't bad, but you need to make sure that you have the tools to get that damage out there. You've got paints, you've got whatever you need, or ideally something like some tracking disruptors or some guidance disruptors that force the enemy comp just within that 60-70 kilometer range so that you can hit them with Scorch.
I mean, I enjoyed that match. It was kind of one-sided, but it was fun at the same time, to be honest. I don't really know what they could have done except change their comp and bring a little bit more tackle, but who do you swap out? Maybe one of the Oracles? Maybe you drop that Guardian, to be honest. Maybe drop that down to like an Augurer or something like that. I feel like an Augurer would probably support them relatively well, at least slow down their dying. But they shit out so much DPS that it doesn't really matter if you lose one or two ships. By the time you've killed enough ships, you're probably winning anyway.
In a lot of similar comps in the past, you'd see things like either a T1 cruiser logi or like T1 frigate logi, just because the answer to them is always, or the answer is, well, just kill them really fast and bring some skybreakers or something, right? And those skybreakers would have GDs or TDs, and they just try and make use of that to make sure they won the match.
Well, it was an exciting match, to be sure. Our next match coming up is Shadow Cartel versus RamRod Relulded. As I see people starting to appear on field, so we're not far away.
I see a fun ship.
Yes, I see as well. Let's go over the bans. Shadow Cartel banning Golem, Barghest, Ishtar, and RamRod banning Balgorn, Armageddon, Curse. So RamRod definitely 100% saying, see them newts, don't bother. Like, you just don't bring the newts, please.
This is where you bring the crewer in. No one expects the crewer.
yeah, exactly. So what do you make of these, other than not bringing crewers, what do you make of these bans, Fear?
I I mean, it's pretty obvious what RamRod want. Meanwhile, Shadow Cartel, they don't want to deal with projection, and they don't want to deal with the Ishtar's drone bay. They left the Gila open. This is the, I think, last match of the day where Gilas are potentially brought on top of anyone. We shall see if they're able to make that work. That said, I can see, I believe this is RamRod's comp right now.
Yeah, it's a
if I'm not
spicy comp.
mistaken.
We'll see what happens
Yeah.
if Gilas appear, because Gilas are open. Shadow Cartel aren't on
Yeah.
field right now. We're waiting to see if they turn up.
So I think I actually don't know how this one deals to Gilas, because I know a variation of this comp, at least in our practices, didn't do super well against Gilas. But also, this is a kind of an upped version of that version that we tried in practices. So we'll see if this works.
So
I don't know.
Shadow Cartel is going to take a few minutes.
Oh my God,
Here's a
Shadow
little
Cartel.
story for you guys. The team captain of Shadow Cartel actually asked to be set up against RamRod because he used to fly with them.
Okay.
Good old rivalries. Love it.
And is now cowering in fear in the station, or what? What's happening?
No, one of his pilots went for a smoke because they were set to go at 21:15.
Yeah, but we're ahead of
he thought he
schedule.
had time. Yeah.
That's it. Kick him from Corp. Get a new one in.
I'll play and commentate at the same time. Don't believe me? I will.
Okay, so we're literally 184 people watching, plus all the competitors, and there's one person having a cigarette outside somewhere, has no idea that like 250 people are just sitting waiting for him to finish.
That is unfortunate.
Oh, here they are.
No.
Hey, is there going to be any Gilas? Any Gilas? I mean, I'm guessing
Nope,
based on what
that
I'm
is
seeing
not
so
a Gila
far
comp.
that there's not going to be any Gilas coming. And sure enough, oh, this is interesting. Okay. Ooh. I don't know. I don't know in this one, actually. I can see both.
So I can't believe I'm saying this. I favor RamRod's comp here, actually.
I don't know. I kind of like Shadow Cartel's comp.
I like it, but not against what they're up against.
I don't know. Maybe you're right.
It
depends. It depends on what the gods deem suitable. Once Shadow Cartel warp in, we can switch the arena. I'm aware we're making it sound like this is some sort of super incredible exciting match. It probably end up being terrible. But these are two comps we haven't really seen so far. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm happy with that.
Yep, and they are finally
they're warping in. Cool.
Warping in.
So I mean, let's just go to the arena. Like, I don't care. I don't give a fuck. Dirk, take us to the arena. It's Fear and Murray. They're going to take you through it.
All right. Double Widow versus a Triglavian comp. What are your thoughts on this one? I see Inika Tursa. I want to know your thought on the Iki in this format, actually.
I think the entire team's in for a real bad time because their Logi and their Damage both spools, and they are running into two Widows.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It is going to be a rough time.
That is my thought on this as well. But also, like, it's interesting that they opted for dual Widow and that it's a shield Widow comp. So instead of having 7 jams or 6 jams on one Widow, and then doing armor and then having like a Rediva or something like that with it. Instead, they're opting for shield Widows, so they're going to be a little bit tankier, probably going to have 4 jams apiece. But it'll be interesting if they go multi-spec. This could be a little bit dicier, but also like they probably didn't go full yellow, and that is a full yellow comp from Shadow Cartel as we start the match.
Yeah, now Shadow Cartel is burning in. Yeah, no, they know that they need to get some damage applied because if they just sit back, they're going to be in for a really bad time. They have started applying damage to the Stork. That makes a lot of sense. Taking info links off the field makes those jams a lot weaker.
Indeed, it does. But once again, you've got 2 Widows, and that's 300% bonus on the jams. Or 200% bonus on the jams, 300% jam strength. Absolutely insane how much jam strength the Widow has. As they've also got damage onto the Zarm. That said, not a whole lot of DPS from the side of RamRod Reloaded. They, I assume these are rapid heavy Widows, so you only have about, what, 1,500 DPS total among all the ships on this fleet. It's going to be very tough to break this Zarm with rapid heavies, I think.
Nope. These Widows are cruise fit. They're
cruise fit?
looking for the good old game plan of we are going to sit here, you can't do anything to us, and we're going to slowly chip out the targets that we need to.
They have less than 1,000 damage on that DPS on that team, though. If they're, well, never mind, they're shield crews, so they've probably got. Maybe it's closer to 1,500 again. I was thinking of an armor Widow.
Cruises don't do that much damage. You're right, and they don't apply super well either. Their game plan is going to be chip away at that Zarm until it dies, and slowly win the match from there. The question is, can they manage to start breaking some of these shield ships on the other side before that point in time? And it looks like right now they're going to give it a go on the Flycatcher of Sindraken, which is dropping into about 30% shields.
Yep. He's got dual phraseology, though, so he'll catch some reps. Are opening him very well. And in fact, I think a jam just hit because he is now out-repping the DPS. I kind of want your thoughts while this match is in a little bit of a stall state. On the Ikatursa versus the Tech 1 variant, the Vedmak, in this format, because the Ikatursa takes a long time to spool.
It does, but it is a level of tanky that the Vedmak will never be. And it has a lot of other nice utility in terms of its strong capacitor pool and other things like that. The Zarm that they're going for right now, it's very slowly dying. They're chipping away at that armor as best they can. The Zarm isn't moving too fast, and it has a smart bomb to try and deal with some of these light drones that are on it and reduce the amount of DPS on it. However, they've managed to get Radicos and the Flycatcher on top of it. That's actually a meaningful amount of additional DPS with those rockets that are going to be starting to apply to the Zarm if they can't get that Flycatcher off.
Yeah, but they, eventually are repping this Zarm back up to full. And, I mean, it really depends on if the Zarm dies, as you mentioned, because they're not going to be able to kill anything else with cruises under Zarm.
They've hard swapped over to the Kieran. The Kieran is in hull. The Kieran is down. With the Kieran gone, it's going to be much, much easier to start breaking apart this comp because the Scalpel's going to be next.
Yeah, and Draugr Kikamura, so much damage to Logi frigates and any small ships in the enemy comp, even the cruisers, right? In fact, that Scalpel's in armor, now in hull. He's dead. Meanwhile, the DPS is actually swapped to this Drekavek instead of onto the Zarm. I'm not exactly sure if that's the right call, but it is the call that they are going for at the time being, while Radicos is apparently the primary of this Kikamura and Draugr from Shadow Cartel.
Yeah, unfortunately, with the cruise missiles that are attached to those Widows, they simply don't really have the ability to go after anything that's smaller than the Zarm or anything that's smaller than a cruiser or battlecruiser, because they're just going to apply absolutely no damage whatsoever. And so their target selection is super limited here.
It is. I mean, the Drek is in low hull, and I assume they're hitting the jams onto the Zarm, so they'll be able to take this Drek off, but they've lost so much low end thus far, and they're losing their last Flycatcher. Sindraken goes down. They've only got Mike left in the Stork. This Drek falls. Maybe they can trade onto the Ikatursa, the Rapier, and the Zarm, but the Kika and Draugr are going to stay alive for the time being as they go on to the Stork. Mike Flood goes down into low shield. He is next to fall as the Drekavek has died.
Yeah, unfortunately, pretty much all the support is gone for those 2 Widows, so it is just the 2 Widows left. And seeing as they weren't able to kill the Zarm before, they're not going to be able to kill it now, and that means this match is going to be a slow death for those Widows.
Indeed, but they'll be able to break this Ikatursa at least, I think. And if they can kill the Ikatursa and the Rapier, I think they actually went on points. It's 50 points to like 30 something. How much is Arm Kiki Draugr?
If they
Like they could draw this out.
breaking this
Wait, it would be
Ichthyrsa
50 to
is
50 if
the
they kill
big
the
if.
Ichthyrsa in the right pair.
And it looks like these Widows are definitely pretty much just buffer fit. They don't seem to have any local tank of their own. They're going down decently slow. But even then, you can see they're still managing to get some spool in on them, and that damage is starting to really grind through the Widow of Tank Blessed.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
he
have an
does.
active
He
rep.
does have a local rep. Good on him.
There are the Ansel
There it
charges.
is.
And while the Ichthyrsa of Lana is in about half armor, but he popped ADC and he's getting his arm reps. See if he's able to hold under that Zarm.
Yeah, this is an issue with trying to watch matches with ECM in general. It's very, very difficult to successfully visualize or successfully figure out when things are dying and whether they're dying because jams have landed, whether they're not dying because jams have landed, and managing that information of whether or not things are going successfully with or without jams is an incredibly good skill to have as an AT team. Like, I know
Indeed.
I've seen teams run heavy jam comps and they just fail miserably because they're not good at juggling jams. They're not good at figuring out whether or not things are working with jams. And there are some teams where you give them 2 blackbirds and they will knock out your entire team. They'll make sure you can never do anything. And they know that they have just enough DPS that when jams land, they can successfully break through a target.
Yeah. Well, the other thing about Dual Widow is that you just don't have a whole lot of DPS. Like, Shield Widow, yes, you do a little bit more, but you're also cruise fit. I mean, even if you're rapid heavies, like, do you kill a Ichthyrsa or Drekavec before you hit the reload? With 2 Widows, not certain. I feel like if you did, like, a single Widow and, like, more DPS ships, this comp could have done a bit better into this, All-Triglavian comp from, Shadow Cartel.
Yeah, it's one of those things after the match you look at it and you're like, well, this was the ideal scenario for those Widows. Like, everything that we want to jam is on the enemy team. And it didn't work. So sometimes you say back to the drawing board after that.
Indeed. This last Widow is slowly dying as the Kikamura Draugr and the Ichthyrsa all spool up on him. Once again, the Ichthyrsa takes forever to spool up, but it is very tanky, so eventually they'll kill the Widow. Would like to highlight the Draugr. I think this is actually low-key the best value ship in the game. 8 points for significant DPS on a plus links. Like, it's absolutely broken, I think. Not as broken as the Gila, but pretty close.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that Widow will die eventually, and even if it doesn't, they've got more than enough points to win the match outright regardless.
Indeed. He will eventually fall. I think he hit an Ansel reload, actually. That's why he's tanking a little bit more now. Just so much buffer on the Widow. And that, you know, that's just due to its bonus. You got so much shield resistance off of it.
Yeah, the Widow is
But
definitely a
eventually he'll
very tempting ship to figure out how to make work, just because it's so powerful across a number of categories, right? Between the jams, the DPS, the resists. There's a lot of really cool things you can do with it, but figuring out how best to do it is going to be a challenge.
And with that, Shadow Cartel take the match. And we're back to the analyst test, but that's all the time for me, because I gotta go. Have a good one.
Awesome. Well, that was quite an exit. So that was Shaxtel winning over RamRod, and I believe we have Radikos coming to join us imminently, captain of the RamRod team, so we can ask him some questions about that as soon as he gets here. We have 2 matches left for you this evening: Spectre Fleet versus Wolves Among Strangers, and Fancypants versus Jovco Mining Division. Still to come, matches 11 and 12. We've had normally 8 matches in these opens, going for 12. A bit more of a pressing schedule, but I mean we're ahead of schedule, which is absolutely wild. Like I just honestly can't believe it. So I said earlier on, but big thanks to all the people that make this happen. So of course, you got people like Soth and Dirk who are doing the button pushing and the admin and things like that. People like Rain who's doing the refereeing today, and of course all the casters that you had on earlier on. Thanks to them for spending their time with you this evening. But most importantly, thanks to all the players. Thanks for coming out and doing these open practices and participating in it and being ready on time and things like that. That always helps. Radikos, I see you've just joined us.
You guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. What is up?
Not much. How was that match for you? I noticed that you finished the match with less points than Shadow Cartel, which seems to be a suboptimal way of winning. Can you run us through that?
Yeah, I mean, if I was coming to opens to win and not have fun, then maybe I would have brought something a little more optimal for it. But we wanted to try Cruise Widows and see how they went. We were pretty happy to see Trig, and we did jam out the Zarm a lot in that match, as that's why we got the Drek down. But unfortunately, it's just too top heavy. But it was fun to fly because give Aider a little run for his money with getting his spool broken nonstop.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you see teams bringing no logic comps, but it's very rare you see a team bringing a no DPS comp like that Widow comp there. So very, 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 very bold strategy from the RamRod team. Obviously, didn't pay off.
No, it did not.
You're going to take that and you're going to learn from that. You're going to improve the comp, and maybe we'll see the Widow comp again at some point.
I think that comp's going straight to the dumpster.
That is unfortunate, but
it's okay. It's okay.
How's the rest of the day been for you? So you guys,
really good.
You lost against Shadow Cartel, but you also lost against Rusty Hyenas, and then you lost to Shadow Cartel as well. Sorry, I thought you won a match.
Nope.
I was gonna talk you up like, hey, what a great win! But then I read through the notes one at a time. I think my brain was ahead of my mouth there, and I was like, nope, lost that one. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So in the first one, we just wanted to have some fun, and all of them. That's really all we did. But we just wanted to bring stuff that we haven't flown really before. I'm like, we've flown Widows before, but not Cruise. But and then we kind of assumed we'd see Gilas in the first match. So we kind of knew how that would go, because usually if Gilas are open, I usually tell everyone to bring Gilas. But I went against my own things and just brought the triple Og Navy comp, and thought maybe we could get in there and get some newts on the Scimitar, which I did. I got in there and caught him and got top DPS on it, and it was all good. But we also lost our logistics tank in the Neros and everything else. So, you come to opens, you ban out whatever, and you just kind of have some fun and get people in and experience the whole thing, and that's kind of what it's all about. So we'll take this opens and not pull any comps to our practices. I'll tell you that much.
Well, speaking of the Gila, which you just mentioned there, both of the next two teams choosing to ban the Gila. So this next match coming up, Spectre Fleet versus Wolves Among Strangers. The bans from Spectre Fleet, Gila, Paladin, Abaddon, and Wolves Among Strangers banning Ishtar, Blackbird, Gila. The additional bans for Spectre Fleet were Balgorn, and for Wolves, it was the Hugin. Radikos, since you're here, what do you think of these bans? So obviously both teams don't want to see the Gila. It's kind of a pick or ban situation here. But what about this Paladin Abaddon ban from Spectre Fleet?
Well, yeah, it looks like Spectre Fleet doesn't want to see any large con flag. And I understand about that. Interesting to see a Hugin ban, and I don't know what if they're gonna try to kite or anything. Because the Gila's kind of in there too, so then you gotta have there's this not much kiting. I guess they could bring some Drake Navies, or it's pretty open, but I'm not sure. I don't know what are Wolves Among Strangers trying to do here. Ishtar, Blackbird, Gila, Hugin. I don't know.
So that's an easy explanation for that. Wolves had both their team captains busy today, so some line member picked up the job, and
Okay.
he didn't know what to pick for the double ban.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that
kind of
makes
makes
sense.
sense. Yeah, because the Hugin is an interesting one.
This is so many points.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to ban that, I think I'd rather ban like maybe the Hyena or the Rapier before I'd ban the Hugin, I think.
Radicus, are you getting on grid or?
Yes. I'm on my way. Sorry, I'm just chopping to the monitor now.
Yeah. Well, one of the big things with the Rapier or the Hugin is that they are functionally the same ship in terms of the AT. The things that matter about them elsewhere are irrelevant for the AT. The cloak, the not being able to see on D-scan, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So otherwise, they have pretty much exactly the same stats. And so if you're going to ban one, usually you ban the other as well. Otherwise, somebody, like, you haven't prevented somebody from bringing anything because it'll just sub out one ship for the other.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it does
I'm
make
in
sense.
warp to the center, guys. Sorry.
Perfect. Once you get here, I think we're almost ready to go to the match. If you could, referee, if you could hold off until Radicus gets here, because we'll have Radicus casting this one with myself. So just make those teams sit and wait. We've waited for them all day. They can wait for us.
All right.
Here's Radicus. Cool. So whenever you're ready, Dirk, feel free to swap to the arena. Perfect. So Spectre Fleet bringing Barghest, Orthrus, Stork, Orthrus, Jackdaw, Orthrus, Jackdaw. So this is full maximum coward here. Kite, 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 kite. That is the name of the game. Stay away. We don't have any logistics. We're just going to not die by virtue of being too far away to be shot. Radicus, what have the Wolves Among Strangers team brought?
Wolves Amongst Strangers have brought the Lashek, Zarmazad, Double Vedmak, Draugr, Pontifex, and Vigil Fleet issue. Is that the last one?
Yes. Yep, that's correct. So much more like set up to get in about that Lupus, the Spectre Fleet team. But as somewhat expected, the Spectre Fleet team burning immediately away from Wolves Among Strangers and damage going on to that Vigil Fleet issue. They just don't want to be webbed down at all. They see that as a threat. It's fast, it's mobile, it can web things down. So they're trying to remove it from the field and just get rid of it as fast as possible. But the reps coming in from the Zarmazad, keeping it very much alive right now. Some damage.
Jackdaw just gets deleted. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was fast. I literally started saying that and then he died.
Yeah, right.
And then Vedmak, though, of Victor. Both Vedmaks actually taking a lot of damage, to be honest. And
their Ponty as well.
Yeah, damage being spread quite effectively right now, and really forcing that Zarmazad to try and pick a target.
Yeah, I mean, his drones can rep another target decently well, but it's not going to keep stuff alive with these triple Orthruses. All this burst damage is just going to push through, I think.
Yeah, the key thing here is that if they can keep through one of these clips, then maybe they can stabilize. But that Orthrus of Agent suddenly just got volleyed through all of his shield into half armor. So something has got him into low armor. He's going to get absolutely skadunkadunk. He's going to go down imminently. The damage has suddenly stopped. It's back on. It's back on. Half hull. He's going to go down. Come on. You guys can do it. Yep, he's down. He's down. There we go. Ooh, that took a bit longer than I thought. I thought that was going to be quick.
Yeah,
that took some time.
Getting that spool, and now that Zarmazad is spooling that Vedmak, no problem.
Looks like the Draugr of Trenton though is dying as well. Oh, the Zarmazad really has got a lot of work right now.
Yeah, and we got Arwen that is also going into low shield right now, as that Draugr is trying to just stay alive with each Zarm spool here. He's back up to half armor. Looks like he's about to hit armor. He's trying to rep through all that damage, but when you have
Orthrus, another second Orthrus is about to go down as well. Like, he is absolutely eating shit like a professional. He's about to go down. The damage from those two Vedmaks and that Lashak is just too much for no logistic ship to keep him alive.
I mean, you just can't keep up with that.
Yeah, he's running away. He's just trying to run away as fast as he possibly can to get out of range. And I thought he did it. He's down. He is down.
And that Vedmak, again, now is getting over half armor. Looks like the spool is up on the Drog, but now he's gonna have to switch over.
Yeah,
And they're shooting at the Vigil fleet as well. It looks
I mean-
like they might lose 2 targets right now.
let's call out this Zarmazad pilot right now, who's doing an absolutely fantastic job
Just
keeping
work.
these guys alive. Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. He's got so many ships in basically half or below armor that he has to try and balance around. The damage, of course, is reducing from the other side as 2 Arthurises have been obliterated.
Oh, but that Vedmak is about to hit hell right now. Let's see if he makes it through the clip or not.
I mean, I don't
the
know.
Vigil fleet too.
The thing is, if that Vedmak goes down, right, then that's one less target for the Zarmazad to balance. So he might actually be. It might be easier for him to keep the rest of the ships alive. Meanwhile, Nike in the Orthrus is running away. Oh, there we go. Vigil fleet. Vigil fleet is down, and the Vedmak's about to go down as well. Ginger Foxtrot.
Same time.
Oh, can he stay alive? He's hanging on.
Rep there. Oh,
then second rep. Yeah, here he comes, and I think we might have clipped the Barghest and the Orthrus might have clipped. Because the damage has really dropped off, and it looks like that Vedmak. Oh no, he's back in the hull. Oh, this could be so close.
Oh man, he's that Zarm spool. He's gonna get popped.
He's going to go down. Yeah, there he goes. Bang.
We did.
Okay. There you go. Right, so now we've got a Leshak and a Vedmak and a Draugr against an Orthrus of Barghest. Basically, the Spectre fleet guys just need to not get caught. If they can stay away from wolves right now, they're actually in quite a strong position. Like, these ships can project, however, they don't project as much damage, and if they get closer, they have to change damage and break their spool. So it's really important for them to stay away. Varian Stoneshard in that Barghest, though, taking a lot of damage, is not that far away from other ships, to be honest. I reckon he should be doing more of the running away than what he's doing right now.
Yeah, he's not moving, and that Stork's going to go down there, and without those links, he's going to be even worse off. Starlight in the links here, about to go down.
Yeah, that's a big one as well, because now they're going to be probably going to be. I imagine there's some skirm links on that, so they're probably going to be slower, and maybe some shield links. But skirm links in this kind of setup much more important. You want speed. Like, you don't really care about being, especially when you've got no logistics. You just want to not be shot by being really fast.
Right, and I mean it's kind of hard to do that with these trig guns. They apply pretty well with Mason. You can.
Yeah, but what you do is you burn away, you get out of their range, break their spool, and you come back in again, and then you can sort of juggle it like that. It takes a lot of good manual piloting, and I mean, to be honest, the Spectre guys doing a good job. But that Barghest Variant, he is boosting himself, but he's taking a lot of damage. He's about to run out of shield.
Dangerously low.
Yeah,
I think his Ansel's out. I think this is
he's out of Ansel. Look at that. He's getting chunked through armor now. He's going to be boosted on cap, and that's probably one of the reasons they banned some newts, but wow, he's getting absolutely obliterated now. He was done. There you go. He is gone.
Done ski. Look at that. Yeah. There's just nothing. I mean, after so many clip goes down, there's 3 Orthruses. That's a lot of clip. You can take some stuff down, but I think starting the way they did, they should have started small. They should have kept with small targets instead of going into that Vedmak and the other Vedmak. Like, they should have just stayed on the small targets, taken out the links. That's a huge part of why this team's still doing really good, is because they still have full links going on right now. Plus, I mean, with a Draugr, that's more DPS as well. I mean, the Pontifex can only do so much, but a Draugr can really put that DPS up, and you can't compete with that. You can have all the speed in the world, but you're not going to be able to get run away from all that. So.
Absolutely. It really is just that Orthrus left as the Jackdaw is about to get annihilated as well. It's not going to take long. There he goes. A couple of seconds and he's done. The Orthrus can probably last a little bit longer, but I mean, he absolutely cannot win now. If the Barghest is still alive, we've seen Barghest do absolutely hero work in past tournaments. A single Barghest flown well is incredibly powerful, but a single mistake can be the end of you. Again, shout out to the Zarmazad pilot there of the Wolves Among Strangers team. I think he did an absolutely stellar job juggling all those people in his team that were getting. There's so much damage being split. Like, I mean, that's the right move for Spectre Fleet. Force that Zarmazad to make the decision to break that spool, rep everyone else.
Is he going out?
He must be. What, the Orthrus?
He's a smart man. I think he wants to be a boundary experts.
There you go. 153.
There you go.
Pathetic.
Oh, 53. 59?
He's still moving because there's no boundary, so you'll just keep burning. Cool. Well, I mean, fantastic match there.
Very good match, yeah.
Yeah, Wolves Among Strangers taking a commanding win, but Spectre Fleet flying very well as well in that match. So well fought, and let us go back to the desk. Welcome back to the desk.
Hey,
Radikos, it's just me and you now.
all right.
Everyone else doesn't have enough stamina, clearly. That was an exciting match. Do you think that
It's our northern blood, you know. We live above the southern hep, you know, we're above the equator, so we got that. We can handle it.
Do you think Spectre Fleet could have done anything different there to come away with the dub?
I mean, they could have maybe brought a logistics. That probably would have helped a little bit.
Do you know what would you swap out, right? So are you going to bring Frigate Logi and Kite Away, or because I think maybe a Scythe is the best thing to bring in that.
Maybe a scythe. I mean, an osprey does okay. It is a bit slower than a scythe, but I feel like a scythe would have just gotten punched through by a single, you know, but by either a Vedmak or a Draugr solo. Like, I just don't think it has the staying
But if
power
you
like
bring a
that
Simi,
osprey
you
has.
have to bring too much points, and then an Osprey is slower, and you're trying to Kite Away.
I think you can with the osprey. You know, it doesn't get the respect that I think it sometimes deserves. It puts out a lot
I
of
like the Osprey.
DPS.
It's a great ship.
And I'm not saying you are not saying that. I'm just saying, like, I mean, it is slow, and that's one thing I don't like about the osprey is it just doesn't kite well. I mean, a scythe could have been a play. I just haven't seen a scythe really ever in tournament play because it just eats so much shit so quickly.
Yeah,
but
that is kind of a problem.
I just don't know what else they could have done. Like, I mean, you know, like I said during the match, you know, like go for, you know, the Pontifex and the Draugr, you know, with its own clip, you know, like you have 3 Orthruses and a Bargus, like you could spread that DPS around and really make that Logi work a lot more than they really did. I don't know if I would have gone for a Vedmak again right away, but you know, the Leshek is just something you got to stay away from and just try to kite and kill the small stuff as it comes into you. That'd be about the only way that has a wing condition to it. Yeah. What about you? What do you think?
I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, to be honest, I think they did everything really well. As I said in the match, like they target swapped really well. They put pressure on the logistics. I think their target calling was. I don't think there was much to critique about it. I just think that matchup was a hard matchup to win. They did really well, and they probably maybe could have won it. And I think if you run that match like 10 times, maybe they win like 4 times out of 10, something like that. Like, it's not a hard counter or anything. It's just a tough match.
Yeah, definitely a tough match. I agree 100%.
We have one more match of the day, one more single match, and the teams are landing now. So let's look at what we got. So we got Fancypants versus Jovco Mining Division. Fancypants banning Vindicator Scorpion, Zarm Azad, and the Leshak. Jovco banning Khila, Widow, Zarmazad, and the Barguest. So interesting sets of bans here. Radikos, run me through them.
Well, the Vindicator, Scorpion, Zarmazad, Leshek ban, that's a lot of control that Fancypants has put off the field. And actually, with the bans that Jovco brought, also helps with the Widow off. You know, that's just less control. And you know, I think the bans kind of favor Fancypants. I mean, Jovco, you know, they don't want to see Gila, Widow, Zarmazad, Barguest. You know, both teams not wanting to see Zarmazad, which is totally understandable. It's a super annoying ship, and I don't like it. I mean, it's a really good ship. It's just in this format, if you don't ban Zarm out, you better be bringing some DPS.
Is that why you banned it earlier on with the Ishkar and the Broadsword?
Yes, that's exactly why.
That makes a lot more sense now.
And then let's see. Yeah, the Gila, Widow, Zarmazad, Barguest. I mean, I don't like seeing the Barguest, but it's beatable. We beat Snuff when they brought Barguest and Gilas, so you know it's not too scary in my opinion. But it is definitely something that you know has it has a lot of, as we went into a lot of detail during the AT. You know, it has a lot of utility, especially if you bring it with armor. So.
Awesome. I see teams landing right now. So once Dirk I keep telling Dirk to just take us to the arena, and he's probably very annoyed at me for doing so. So this time, Dirk, whenever you are ready, you may take us to the arena. Okay, just no rush.
While he's working on that, let me explain. Dirk has to switch between his 3D mouse and his regular mouse to do the target locking. And he has to wait for the teams to actually warp down to start the target locking.
Yeah, it takes time. He has to set up, and then he's in the middle of setup, and I'm just like, "Hey, take us to the arena," and he's like, "Oh fuck," because he has to listen to me, hit the button, get ready. Looks like teams are ready though, so I mean, that says to me we can swap to the arena. Dirk, can we swap? It's not a mirror match, but it's close. I mean, the key thing is there's a Griffin and a Kitsune on the Jovco Mine Division who are absolutely terrified because they see a worm on the other side who can literally just glance in their direction, press F, delete them, and then go off and do his own business. So
Yeah, the worm is a good pick. I like that.
yeah. So Radicos, take me through the Fancypants team here.
Fancypants. Hold on, I don't have the thing running here. Are they the NJED?
No, they're the other ones.
Okay, so they have the double Sleipnir, Loki, Osprey, Navy Issue, Caracal, and what worm? And Harpy. So I like that comp with what they're bringing. It's a lot of slap DPS, and probably do really well with these Kitsunes. And we get the match understarted here, and looks like the Fancypants are burning in at the Kitsunes, and
I mean, First Recon's not moving. First Recon, the Kitsune is sitting completely stationary right now.
yeah, he's not moving. And Zarthal's taking the first. They're both going after Sleipnirs, which is pretty smart.
Yeah, man, that Sleipnir is getting chunked though. Chunked! Oh my god, that's a lot of damage. Where's that coming from? Is there something off field we don't see? Jesus Christ! Oh, what the hell's going on?
Kitsune's down, both Kitsune's down, and a Sleipnir. Zarthal also in this is RD damage, also in or is this AC? I can't tell by the.
Yeah, this must be. I mean, the second Sleipnir's about to go down. He's in half hull. They just absolutely obliterated two Sleipnirs in what, like 20 seconds?
Looks like the Loki here is the one that's taking next DPS. Primary for Jovco. Is it Jovco?
Yeah, that's a lot of damage.
That other, I mean, oh man, that other Sleipnir getting some reps in.
And those Sleipnirs get they get a participation medal at best for this match. They just turned up, got shot, and then went home. That was it. The third Sleipnir about to go down as well. That is some of the fastest I've seen Sleipnirs die.
Yeah, that's a lot of arty though. I mean, boom, wow,
boom indeed. So now we have Sleipnir, Bellicose, Loki, Rupture going up against Caracal, Harpy, Worm, Loki, Osprey, Navy. It's just a DPS race at this point. Who can punch the other team the fastest? And at the moment,
Jovco loses.
Jovco is getting punched harder right now by Fancypants. They're just standing in the bar, just punching each other in the face. Shirts are off. No one has any skill or tact. It's approach F1.
Harpy just goes down.
Jesus, this is absolutely brutal. Basically, this is
if they can kill that Loki, oh man, they might. I mean, there's still a Sleipnir on field. If they can kill that Loki,
the Bellicose is about to go down though. There he goes. So now it's Sleipnir, Rupture versus Osprey, Navy, Loki, Worm, Caracal. That's quite important that Osprey, Navy, and the Caracal do a lot of damage. They can probably kill the Loki, but they will definitely lose that Rupture.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Even with his XL-ASP that he has on there.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
This is the beauty of I mean, these are absolutely 100% autocannons just because they're all sitting right next to each other and just approach F1 full on nullsec strategy here. No skill, no finesse. Just let's just see how high we can get the damage number, and then both teams have done it, and it's that Rupture's repping hard though. Look at him. He's
that XL-ASP is doing work.
It's not going to work for very long though. Wow.
Oh, he's about to go down here. That was a quick match. I did not expect that.
Yeah, I did. I didn't expect those Sleipnirs to die so quickly. I was caught guard by that.
Will Katrina? Oh, she'll be able to rep 8 more times. We'll see if the Slepner can remind himself to rep unlike the other ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think Blue Dagger is basically on borrowed time at this point because
Mm-hmm.
the damage comes. I mean, he's doing damage to that.
He can make it through one clip, I would say,
Yeah.
but after that, I don't see. I want Blue Dagger to win right now. I want him to kill the Osprey Navy issue, clap the worm, clap the Caracal, then kite out the Loki.
I mean, if he kills the Osprey Navy, what's the points situation at 21 and 27? Okay, so
He needs to kill the
he
Osprey
needs to
Navy
kill the Osprey Navy. Yeah.
and the Caracal, and he could win because it's 21 plus 4, 25. Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of doing it. He's
Yep.
kind of doing it. He's kind of killing this Osprey Navy
Osprey,
right now.
I don't think it has any reps left. I think
Yeah.
he went through it.
I think he's going to do it. I think Blue Dagger is.
Oh, he just MJD'd. He just MJD'd.
Oh, that's
smart play. Oh, look at that.
I was about to call Blue Dagger PvP Jesus, but no, it's Katrina, who's now PvP Jesus, micro jumping away, and basically keeping himself in the game, and that's it. Big brain 1000 IQ play. Yeah. So Blue Dagger has to chase. He's got time to do it, to be fair, and he is. Is he? No, he's not. He's going after someone else. Who's he after? He's after the Loki. I don't think that's a good idea. I think because the Osprey Navy's coming back in. I mean, the Osprey Navy just escaped and then is like, do you know what? Escaping's for losers. I'm coming back. So
I'm a man.
Blue Dagger should turn around and see this happening. This is situational awareness now. So he's lost his situational awareness. He doesn't see the Osprey Navy coming back into damage range. He's not.
And he's probably an Ansel reload.
Exactly.
So he's not gonna.
Yeah, I think the Slepner should have chased down the Osprey Navy because he's done there. Dunzo. There you go. Fancy Pants.
Very good match. There's a moment there that we thought maybe Blue Dagger, was going to pull that out. But...
Yeah. Unfortunately, PvP Jesus was crucified on the altar of the Fancy Pants. And there you go. Fancy Pants proving once again that their tailors are the best in the business as they take that win over Jovco Mining Division in our final match of the day. That's us. We are Dunzo. Much
a very good match. That last one is explosive. Couldn't even keep up with the ships dropping like flies.
Yeah.
Trying to talk over each other.
Yeah, I know. There's so much going on. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, fantastic match there. Really enjoyed that one. Great matches all round. Thanks to all the teams that participated today. Rusty Hyenas, TurboFeed Glory, Shadow Cartel, RamRod, Relulded, Spectre Fleet, Wolves Among Strangers, Fancy Pants, and Jovco Mining Division. Thanks for everyone watching. Thanks for all the people who made this possible. CCP helping us out. Dirk, Soth, Rain, everyone, all the casters. I've been Ithaca Hawk. Good evening.
Later.